Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV podcast 535. December of 2024, first Tuesday in December. How's that significant? I just looked at it. 1, 2, 3, like 12, 3, and then 2. Okay, it doesn't. There's no
1,
nothing
2,
special
3, 2, 4. Doesn't.
Yeah.
No, there's nothing cool or
1, 2.
It's not.
Get your booty on the floor. I don't know. It doesn't work out that way. Either way, it's a balmy, wintry evening here, at least in Wisconsin. A little warmer from this past weekend.
It's supposed to just continue to climb up through the week
into the 30s. Well, I am getting on a plane and getting out of here come tomorrow, where it will not be overly hot and warm, but it'll be better than here as I head off to the Chainhawk Open, and we'll be bringing you some coverage from over there, down there in Gainesville, Florida. Chainhawk crew putting on their A-tier, which has certainly become a staple in the latter part of the season. And I remember seeing this event on the schedule for many years. And then when it was right around COVID time, when everyone was itching for even more coverage and more opportunities to watch golf. And that was some of the first time that I had attended. And now it's grown into an event that it sounds like some people are often kind of yearning for, waiting for that
enjoying.
action. Yeah.
They're looking forward to it. It's they went from pencil to pen on their calendar for this event.
They sure did. So it's great to have this late season A-tier taking place, and then they, on top of that, have fundraising. I know they benefit the Paul Macbeth Foundation and do a bunch of other things, and just an all-around great club. So we'll have more on that come next week after I've been down there in Florida. In fact, our guests tonight are going to also be down there in Florida, and we're going to be catching up in a little while with Felix and Conrad, the fine gentlemen over at Ace Run Productions. And as soon as they get ready, we're going to have them locked in, have a conversation, not necessarily about this upcoming weekend, although I'm sure we'll touch on it, but more so about the state of disc golf media, some post-production, things that they've been working on, things that they maybe have lined up coming out in the future. What I love to see from them is not only are they dedicated to giving you guys a ton of post-production coverage, but then they go above and beyond and create other segments and fun games and things that they release in addition to just the shot-by-shot. They do all the things that other teams should be doing.
They go above
myself
and beyond.
Included, which I don't. No. So that's why I tip my cap.
You had a good idea, and something that we're hoping to do over the next few weeks is kind of just catch up with some of our media folk. Just maybe, we're going to talk with Ace Run Pro tonight, and maybe in a week or two, try to get some of the other crews on, just to kind of get the feeling of 2024, how things went, and maybe what 2025 is going to look like for them.
Exactly. I know I've had a brief
quiet.
And I've had a brief conversation with the fine fellas over there at Gatekeeper. I'll check in with GK Pro. Maybe we can get some Joe Mez reps on here, whomever. But over the next few weeks, that might be kind of a reoccurring theme in addition to some of our other special guests. But kind of catching up with our media teams, our brethren that are out there doing the work. They're usually on the ground. You sit here.
I do. I've sat here for a long time.
He sits here.
Yeah.
Those guys are out doing work. Not that you didn't do work.
I did work.
You did.
Not as hard of work as them.
No, never.
No. Not nearly.
But you press the buttons, and
I used to press the buttons.
Now it's all good to go.
I want to be clear for everybody. I don't press the buttons anymore, which is kind of nice. I press these buttons, but for the Pro Tour, I would say, is there something between retired and semi-retired? Because that's where I'm at in my Pro Tour career.
Are you a backup to a backup yet?
I'm more or less a backup to a backup. So if the backup comes down with the flu and the main guy is incapacitated somehow, I don't know, bad cauliflower, maybe they call me.
Okay.
That's where my position is now. So everyone out there who likes to reach out to me and is like, hey, what about this, this, and this? I appreciate it, but that's a different dude now. I'll give you his email someday.
Different people pulling different strings, pressing different buttons. Well, without further ado, as I'm trying to get our thumbnail and everything else updated and ready to go, looks like we're going to welcome to the show our good friends, Conrad and Felix, Ace Run Production. Welcome in, gentlemen. How are we doing tonight?
We are good. Well, at least I am.
Yeah, you are.
It's been a while.
maybe one of the best voices in disc golf right there.
Yeah. Why
don't you do more commentary?
Yeah. Why don't you take everyone else's job, please?
Yeah.
I was explaining to someone not too long ago that when it comes to commentary, I'm more of a bogey commentator. Sometimes I get par. Hardly do I ever get birdie. So I'm just there just in case. I'm not the best at it. So,
well, I mean, that's how you play golf. That's how you should commentate, right? I'm with you. No?
All right. So let's start.
Shade.
Let's start there. You guys, of course, Ace Run Productions have come into the game. You guys are now staples here. You've been around doing a ton of different things for the last couple of years. But let's start with your typical workflow for a weekend like this upcoming weekend. We were just talking about Chainhawk. You guys are going to be there. You're heading up the FPO coverage. What is a typical weekend workflow look like for the two of you? And more, if there are more. But what's the typical weekend look like?
You want me to get started? I'll get started. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So for me, I have a template. In order for us, a 2-man crew, to be able to like do next day turnaround or even compete with the other guys, 2-man crew is very, very different from a 6-man crew or 8-man crew that we're up against. So I do a lot of work on the front end. So like a typical template for this year, I probably have already put 80 hours into making a template, just so that when it comes time to do the event, I can actually focus on the details that pertain to the event. So before we even get there, I've been tweaking the template for this particular event.
And that
once
template,
we get there, I have to, before the event starts, I have to worry about the drone,
okay,
making sure that we have the preview of the holes, making sure that we have B-roll, drone B-roll in particular. That's what I do. Felix does the regular B-roll. So when we get to a course, first we play it just to understand the layout of it. Drone the course, do some B-roll, and I don't know what else Felix does to prep for the course, but I'll let him jump in now.
What does Felix do, man? That's what we all ask.
I wait in the van until he's done flying the drone, for the most part. Now I do the still slow shots, anything interesting on the course, any type of feature that stands out. A cool looking green, some great flowers. Anything I can get besides just the standard disc golf B-roll. I try to stay away from just the close up of a chain or the stuff that you see everywhere else. So if there's cool animal life or wildlife running around, I'll get that. But besides that, while we're playing the course, I'm looking at the tee pad, so I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to set up for each shot. As the player cam, Conrad does the catch cam. So he's looking at where he needs to be at mostly. And by us playing the course, we get a better idea of where shots are going to tend to land, typically, depending on if we're covering MPO or FPO. So it's a fun part of the job, but it's also a part of the job because we are doing research while we're out there playing. And some courses, as I'm sure you know, Terry, they were put into place well before media was ever a thought. So there's times where you can't stand behind a tee pad. You have to be on the side and you have to figure out, I got to adjust for where I'm going to be at during that process. But that's how it all starts. And then when it actually comes down to game day, if we're doing next day turnaround, that's a 12, 13, 14-hour day from start to finish by the time we get to the course, which is an hour before our tee time, just to make sure that if there's any technology hiccups, we can try to work it out before we have to get out there. We might be filming for 3 to 5 hours, depending on the course. And then it's immediately back to the hotel to upload all the data from that day. Conrad starts working on the score and the graphics while I start doing the line edit on the actual action from the day. And then I do the intros and outros after I've handed off the line edit to him and he's working on matching everything up. I'm working on getting the intro and outro ready to give him to get ready for commentary that same night.
That's really, and I don't want to say it feels old school nowadays, but that's really kind of the way that I knew how Terry would more or less do it. You get out there, get a bunch of B-roll. You've probably got, as he said, some sort of template that you've been working on all year long and making tweaks to it along the way, where you can just hopefully drop all of this B-roll, drop some of the footage, it's all set for you to help save you time that night. It's a different animal now for the Pro Tour. Like, they don't do it that way because of live and with taking on Jomez and stuff. It's so the way you guys are doing it is the way it's kind of been done for like the last 3, 4, 5 years prior to this big consolidation.
Yeah, and we learned along the way. I mean, we went from having to take 15, 20-minute cat naps where we could and not getting any sleep because our processes were a lot slower to where it's, we're in bed at a decent time now. We can actually rest. But we learned from, Gatekeeper, from GK Pro, as we've gone along, how to expedite those processes and make them much more efficient. And that frees up a lot of time. So that lets me create the reels that you see on Instagram that same night. Create clips that go on our YouTube shorts and our Facebook and all that stuff while we're getting all this other stuff uploaded to keep people interested in the stuff that's going to be coming out. Because nowadays, you're competing against a lot of channels. I mean, obviously, there's Jomez, who's the big elephant in the room. But for all-season content, too, there's other crews out there that are doing things all throughout the U.S. So we're constantly competing to try to get that attention. Working on making the thumbnail better, working on making the reel funnier so people click on the actual video. All that stuff is things that we didn't have to really think about 3, 4, 5 years ago. But now, if you're not grabbing somebody's attention right away, you're losing the lion's share of the views.
Have you thought about a thumbnail with just you guys going like this?
Has that been done? I haven't seen that.
I don't know. I don't know if it's been done. Or maybe some clickbait. Like, you'll never believe who shot what. Call it something like that. I mean,
it needs to be a little more negative.
It has to be more negative.
You can't
be positive clickbait.
I can't believe this person did blank. Like, it has to be have some like like negative overtone to
I'm behind the scenes. I don't know.
Is what I feel like.
We used to just put Paul Macbeth's face on every thumbnail, regardless of whether or not he was on the card.
FPO chase card, Paul Macbeth.
FPO chase, Paul Macbeth. Yeah, click and see.
It doesn't hurt. It can't hurt.
In all seriousness, now there has been this continued conversation, and it's a very legitimate conversation to have, in that getting more eyeballs, not only just on any and all coverage, but then specifically where we're at with FPO coverage. And I say that because I was one of the channels that I don't want to say I defaulted to FPO, but when I was standing shoulder to shoulder with one or two other potential channels or coverage people, I'd be like, okay, it's crowded here. I'm just going to go cover something else. And I would then go find FPO lead card, which was otherwise avoided like a plague. And then after a few years, we saw the Disc Golf Network and the Pro Tour really want to step forward and find a way to get the coverage as equitable as possible, even though that was still tough. And for a little while, we spliced it in live and so on and so forth. GK Pro picked up and was doing some FPO coverage pretty consistently as part of a contract and just an overall organizational component. And then you guys also stepped into that role of feeling like, I don't want to say the torch was passed, but you guys certainly picked it up and were championing that cause in a sense as well. Nothing for nothing. As much as we all have covered and love our FPO players in the FPO division, it's not a secret that it's not nearly as lucrative. What have you guys learned? I was going to say, what do we need to do? But maybe even first, let's start with what have we learned that we can share with the world in terms of this progression or lack of progression, whatever you want to call it. What have we learned?
I think the lack of progression is kind of unfortunately the thing that stands out. It's still difficult to get the views for FPO. I mean, we've had aces at Worlds, and it just hasn't drawn the clicks that you would think they would draw. And I think the more success we found is, I think like anything else in FPO as well, it's personality driven. So if you have the personalities on the channel that people are interested in, it's going to draw better, even if that personality isn't, top 3 in the world, but they're entertaining. People want to see that. We got a lot of traction from working with Dynamic Discs and Westside when we had Sayananda. We were doing practice rounds with her because she's just an amazing personality, and people are genuinely drawn to her because she is who she is, and you can't fake that. The same thing with Maddie O. She was almost like the Maddie O of FPO. People just were drawn to her, and I think that maybe companies that have players like that aren't giving them the outlet necessary. And it's also on the player, because at this point, nothing's stopping you from building your own brand yourself. As a lot of players have done, as Simon has done, as Eagle has done, as Eric Oakley has done. But there needs to be more chances taken, I think, with the FPO, where it's still too, I don't know, I don't want to say like buttoned up or too tight-lipped, but let them go out and explore and build their audience and foster that. Give them opportunities to do that more so. I think there's opportunity that's not being taken advantage of, and if you can build up those stories and those personalities, maybe it draws more attention to when they're out there playing and seeing how it all plays out. I mean, we continue to try it. We've got a practice round scheduled at Chainhawk with 2 personalities that we think are fantastic in the sport. So. That we'll see as we continue to do it. We love working with the FPO. Some of our closest friendships are with the FPO players from being on the road with them and following them week after week. So we know their stories. We try to shine as much of a light as we can on them to try to build it up. But it's a rough road. You have to keep grinding at it, and you don't see the payoff, so to say, right away, or sometimes at all, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I guess I'd follow that up and ask. Certainly personalities may get you views. Have you guys found a specific recipe when it comes to players that are featured on the card during a post-production round, even as to maybe whom your commentators are? How much do you feel like those additional components really play into the success of a particular video?
I'll chime in a little bit here. It's hard to even sell that we have so-and-so on commentary if they're not clicking the video. Even if we advertise it, just getting the initial eyeballs on the video. I mean, if we've taken a look at the view time on the video, we know it peaks in the beginning and then trails off very, very slowly, steeply towards the end. So getting those initial looks is so critical. And sometimes we can have Hall of Famers doing commentary, but it still doesn't get the initial clicks.
Yeah, I could see that as well, especially when right now the most practical scenario for consistent commentary has been what Jomez has been able to do, because they're tied into the tour. They're part of the Disc Golf Pro Tour. Therefore, they're guaranteed to be there at all the biggest events. And also the players that they're anticipating having on the mics are all but contractually obligated to be there as well. Whereas every other weekend, it's kind of almost a flip of a coin, right? There's even some scrambling. I'm sure you guys have consistent people that you love to work with. However, if it's on the other side of the country or just a certain time of year, that either one person or 2 people probably aren't even practical, practical to have there. Is that right?
Yeah, that happens.
Very much so.
When we were on tour, we had Holly Finley was a staple, and we would have either someone team up with her or a guest appearance, but she was always the staple for our commentary on the road, on the tour. But, if we're doing an event and she's, like you said, somewhere across the country, or she's at a different event, it may not be convenient for her to jump on and do commentary for us. So we'll have to scramble and try to find other personalities. But I mean, I think we've done a good job of that. For example, we were the first to have Nathan Queen do commentary. He did it with Rebecca Cox a few years ago. And then, talking about voices in disc golf, I mean, I'll take a happy second to his. I mean, that's just it's just a great commentary voice. When he's not talking through a jailed phone, that's a different
sure.
That's a different jab. But yeah, I don't. I like the idea of finding new personalities to do it. I don't think we've ever completely flopped in doing that. Like we had people on and we just said this isn't going to work. We've never had to scrap anyone's commentary, other than our own, maybe. No.
Yeah, we're not opposed to trying new people for sure.
Yeah, and there too, I'll double down and say that's another opportunity, like you were just saying earlier, Felix. That's such a chance for our players to shine and for them to have a creative outlet, to show who they are a little bit more as a person, and show off other skill sets, that they are more than just able to throw the disc. They're able to articulate it. They're able to talk about it, discuss various things that might be going through their mind or other players' minds. There's a lot of additional insight. And nothing for nothing, I've been in that exact same boat as you guys. Is I love the opportunity to pull in a player or two and have them be able to shine in that role, or at least take a shot at it. Some find obviously that they love it. Some may fail or feel like they fail, or just decide, hey, this really wasn't for me. But it's a whole nother creative outlet that can attract and or retain a fan base for sure. I mean, clearly there's been some careers essentially built on just that, the commentating alone. How do you guys feel about, at what point do you guys just say, hey, we're just going to do it? The commentary, is that a timing thing? Is that always a personnel thing? Like, what decides if it's going to be the two of you?
Two main things. One is timing. If we want to get the video out in a certain time and we're not able to secure the talent that we need, and sometimes in securing the talent, part of that is making sure that they have the proper equipment. Because everyone knows that, I don't know who told Felix this, but people will forgive bad video, but they will not forgive bad audio.
Yeah, no, that's
Bobby Brown.
Yeah. So, we can't have someone talking on, a cell phone trying to do commentary. That's just not going to play. So sometimes that's a factor. If we can't get the talent with the right equipment, then, and time comes into play. Other times if it's a course that the talent isn't familiar with, you can tell that they're fumbling through because they don't know the property, they don't know the course, they don't know the shots. And we would try to avoid that situation if they're not comfortable with that type of, spur of the moment, just totally 100% reacting what they see off of TV and not being able to draw from any experience.
We're trying to avoid it. If it has to be us, it has to be us. But we look for every opportunity to give somebody else that platform, because it adds to the content, and it adds, those little nuances that we are not going to be able to add because we didn't play the course, or we've had course designers do commentary along with somebody that's played the course. Anybody that has a prior knowledge and a better understanding of the course and the game, we let them take over, and if that can't be done, then we'll do it ourselves.
Yeah, and I'll echo that it's always great, but sometimes logistically it's too big of a hurdle, or like you said, timing wise, you guys often are covering FPO, therefore hopefully if things go well for you, you may have an edit available, a rough edit that's available at a reasonable time, whether that's 5, 6, 7 p.m. On an MPO side, we often find that it can be a lot later, and I always say that's where it's more practical for me to do. I was doing a commentary that started at 2 a.m. in South Carolina a few weeks ago. I don't expect anyone else to be around, and if I really want it out that next day, that's just the reality of it. So I think far too many people don't realize we'd all love to have guest commentators. It's just a matter of the practicality of it, and it can be really tough. When you look back at 2024, well, let's start at the beginning of 2024. How did the beginning of this last year, when the calendar was kind of put together, rough draft or final draft, whatever you want to call it, how did that look different than any previous years in terms of where your assignments were going to be and what you were going to be doing? How did 2024 line up differently from the get-go versus any of the other previous years?
I'll start off first. So for me, for 2020, I'll go back to 2023 when we didn't expect to be quote unquote on the tour as much as we were. I ended up having to fall back in my other job as operations director at a nonprofit. I had to do a lot of stuff remotely just because I wasn't there. But for this last year, 2024, I kind of prioritized that job over being on the road. So I wasn't on the road as much. So that kind of put us doing coverage in a different bracket of priority than us being out there getting content and helping the pro tour. So we were there in a different capacity from gathering content for ourselves and publishing on our channel. We were doing that, but just in a different. We weren't doing the post production coverage anymore. So we didn't do that in 2024, but we were still out there. Felix was out there more than me. Like I said, I had to fall back at least for half of the year. When it came time for me to jump back in on tour, that's when the tour started doing a little bit of rearranging, and I wasn't able to get back out there and follow up the remaining events. But for Felix, it looked a little bit different.
Yeah, there's
what was your role on my own? Yeah, what was your role, and then how was it different from previous years?
Well, last year we only covered FPO, so we had one round a day, and we would take our footage and then go back and start editing to get that ready to go out on the channel. This year it was filming both MPO and FPO, so I was doing 2 rounds a day, working the camera for DGN, and then that footage, as you know, is either not just live, but it goes out through Jomez and all that other stuff. So that changed. So it was nice to not have to edit, but it was also terrible to have to do 16 miles a day of hiking instead of 8 every day, especially at courses like Brooksville, which Terry is very familiar with. That track can be a nightmare, or Deglow, to have to do that twice every day can potentially kill you.
Chess.com was not a cakewalk.
No, that's also something. Chess.com, yeah, was rough. So that was different. And then I had to find ways to try to do some smaller supplemental content that really only involved one camera. So whenever we had the opportunities to partner up with some of the people that we worked with in the past, like Eric Oakley or Chris Dickerson or Zach Melton, we would do smaller challenges throughout the year with them when we could, like the offhand challenge that we did at Hammond Park. Mm-hmm. We did a CTP challenge with Eric Oakley and crew during the Austin Open. Smaller segments, because the one thing we really worried about was if we were just going to be camera ops, we didn't want the channel to suffer and basically lose subscribership because we're not putting out that regular content that we always have put out. So thankfully our subscribers have stuck with us. We tried to put out as much extra stuff as we can, and this time of year is kind of like our thank you to them, because we get to go out and all the relationships that we built with the TDs for the off season for these events. We get to come back and do those events, and they do very well for us, and people enjoy watching them. So the people that kind of hung on, this is our way of saying thank you. Like, here's as much content as we can give you in the off season.
Now, do you, looking ahead to 2025, knowing everything you guys just said, what does it feel like, or what is it looking like, or shaping up to be like for you guys in 2025 in terms of the roles and responsibilities?
We still haven't had the full conversation with the Pro Tour yet.
Okay.
So we're not exactly sure what that's looking like. We had our events lined up for last year with them, and then with the whole restructuring that happened towards the latter third of the season, our ending events all got dropped. So we had to kind of scramble to fill in as much as we could with other tournaments that we were working in the past and that we had to say no to because we had committed to the Pro Tour schedule. Kind of reach back out to them and at the last minute try to get in and cover what we could. So as of now, we've only kind of planned out or started to plan out the first quarter of the year and some later events that are staples for us that we cover every year with those tournament directors, and kind of like we're giving you priority on this stuff. We don't, not to say that, that left the bad taste in our mouth, but we want to make sure that if something like that were to happen, that we have those plans in place ahead of time versus having to scramble like we did at the end of this year. So we're reaching out to those tournament directors and kind of getting those things set up so the events that you are familiar with us covering should be covered again by us again in 2025.
Yeah, that had to be incredibly difficult in terms of having a plan, a schedule, and then at a certain point in the season, relatively abruptly, just say, "Oh, hey, this isn't happening anymore."
Yeah.
Essentially, sorry, and it wasn't just you guys. There's plenty of people impacted by this on multiple levels within not just the media side of DGN and DGPT, but operationally and all sorts of other places. So, it was across the board. But nonetheless, when you're already talking about what is a very difficult and demanding grind, and now saying, "Oh, hey, that's not happening anymore. We got to cut things loose, or we're going to restructure." That had to be very difficult. Did you guys, did you foresee anything like that coming, or do you feel like that was really just out of nowhere?
Yeah, it was really out of nowhere. There was no, well, at least for me, like I said, around that time I was looking to get back out on tour and be a camera op. Our grant that we had for the nonprofit had ended, so my obligation there was reduced, and I was ready to get back out on the road and grind like we did in 2023. So it was, I had the family prepared for me to be gone for weeks or months at a time again, and all of that just kind of in one swift text message / call just got rearranged.
Yeah.
So does 2025 look different for you then, Conrad? Like with this grant, or are you planning?
Yeah. I'm free again for the time being. If we do get a grant, it won't be we don't have any plans for such a time-consuming grant as we did in the years prior. So if we do get a grant, I'll still be able to work and do most of what I need to do remotely. Some stuff I do need to be in person, and I try to prioritize that and make sure that fits into the schedule, or make sure I have time for that when I have time for it. But if I'm on the West Coast and something needs to be done in person, that's just not possible. We'll have to find alternatives. But again, with the position that I have, there's not much I can't do on a Zoom call or with emails or with phone calls and stuff. So it gives me a lot of flexibility.
Explain, if you guys could, and hopefully you can be as unhandcuffed as possible, but explain how difficult the reality is of having a channel that, I don't want to just say, breaks even, but to in any way find profitability. Because, and why I think this is such an important question for you guys is because lots of people would love to do what you do, which I always feel like is a compliment. It gets said to a lot of different people within disc golf industry, specifically filming, seeing courses, filming top players, documenting it, putting on it, having their own YouTube channel. It from many angles looks incredible, and it is. I think we all can agree and know that. However, there's a harsh reality to the difficulties of pulling it off, especially when you have crazy mid-season changes and so forth. So the question is really, what are some of the harsh realities of trying to do what you guys are doing full time? What's in essence your advice when someone's thinking about this life?
Don't do it.
I mean, if you want to think about it.
I mean, it's funny because it goes to show you, like you said earlier, there are more than a handful of smaller disc golf channels that do this. And I'm sure they all have, I don't say delusions of grandeur, but they all have that idea that maybe we can get out there and do it like Ace Run or like Jomez or GK. And it's, shed some light on that.
So the main thing that I'll say is people don't understand the costs that go behind having to travel, having a vehicle, having gas, having insurance, having food, having a place to sleep, having somewhere that has internet, all those little things add up. So if you look at lodging alone for a month out on tour, we're talking about 3-4 grand.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just for us lodging. That's not,
Mm-hmm.
we don't have the luxury of being able to camp. We don't have hosts set up for us already in line. We need a hotel room where we can be focused and dedicate and work. Sometimes it's just an Airbnb, but that's no cheaper than a hotel. So we're talking about, that's an overhead cost that we need to cover, and our YouTube revenue alone does not cover it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we've had any series of videos that would cover a month of us being out on tour. And people don't know about the YouTube revenue and the analytics and the pay that goes along with it. They always assume, oh, you have this many people subscribed and you make plenty of money. No, that's not the case. So if you're going to do it, you have to have a very good business understanding and management behind it. Because it's some years we are not profitable. Some years we are in the red. And some businesses can't withstand being in the red for 1 year or multiple years.
Mm-hmm.
So the management behind that is crucial. If you think, hey, I'm gonna get the van, I'm gonna get a camera, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna live it up. I'm gonna bring home 50, 60K a year. That is not the case. So it is truly a grind. And when we were talking about two people, not one, two different households, mouths to feed, mortgages to pay, then it starts to get, it's serious. It's not a hobby, or it's not something that we're doing just for fun,
It's adult stuff.
Yeah, and everything you just mentioned, like you said, you're basic. You might get lucky and be in a tolerable place for $70 for one weekend per night. Hopefully, maybe. And then there's going to be other times where you're not getting into anything decent for under $125 or $150 a night. So even if you're averaging, like you said, roughly $100 a night times your 30 days on the road, and then all the other things, and one thing you didn't even mention, because it's a fixed cost, an initial cost usually, is just the major investment in some decent quality equipment. You're talking about at least 2 decent cameras along with microphones, probably 2 machines that are that you can actually edit on. So instead of 10 hours of editing, it might only be 8 hours on that given night, because they actually, just all of those things that go hand in hand. And that's assuming nothing drops or breaks or malfunctions. You're always going to be investing in more media storage, whether it's cloud or on site, everything in between, backups. Like, there's a lot that goes into it. And I don't want to, get this twisted and tell everybody, oh, we're all just complaining here and life sucks. But these are things, though, that I think a lot of people tend to gloss over and not realize, like, yeah, if you want to do this series, and that's assuming you have any traction, right? Like, you guys have worked really hard to gain the traction that you have. There's no successful YouTube disc golf coverage or disc golf component to YouTube that just was an instant success overnight and then just gained hundreds of thousands of followers. It's never happened, and it probably never will. This you're playing the long game. You might get there a little quicker than the next guy, but at the end of the day, it's still a long game. So I guess all of that to follow up with, is this still your game? Like, do you guys have, I don't want to say an exit strategy. Do you guys, on the opposite end, do you have a breaking point where you're like, you know what, by this year, by such and such year, if we're not hitting these metrics in whatever those are, maybe we back off, maybe we call it quits or throw in the towel. Is there any? Have you had that awkward conversation with yourself or with each other?
Not
it's always kind of in the back of our minds. Like, it's not, we talked about the fact that, we have mortgages, we have families. I have an 8-year-old daughter. I have a wife. I can't, I was a bank manager before this, making $75,000 a year. Now I'm, doing this for a third of that on a good year. So it's a matter of, kind of spreading out as much as you can and getting as many revenue streams going at the same time as you can. But the reality is, if those start to dry up and there's no light at the end of the tunnel, so to say, at some point, yeah, you do have to pull the parachute. We're not there yet, thankfully. We've built, through the years that we've been doing this, we've been very fortunate enough to not just be able to build relationships with the talent side, with the pros and all those things, but also with decision makers of different companies, different tournament directors, strong relationships that we can kind of rely on to go back to and work with each other to build each other's events and brands together. And those relationships are still in place. And awkwardly enough, with the shift that's happening now with, disc manufacturers kind of scaling back, and we're seeing different pros kind of having to take a look at where they're going to be at in 2025. I think there's more opportunities to work with those other professionals this coming year than there might have been in the past, because more and more talent's going to be forced to kind of go out and start to build their own brand. And there's an opportunity there to partner with channels that are kind of already established to help raise those brands up. But yeah, it's to say that it's not on the back of our mind. At some point, like we said, we're both dads, we're both husbands. There's a responsibility there as an adult and as a provider to know that if this isn't working, I'm not going to have my daughter suffer because I'm like, this can work in 3 more years. If I can't put food on the table, then there needs to be a change.
How much of you guys, and I know sometimes you have been supplemented with a few people that you bring in for a weekend, whether they're regional or good friends or whatever the case might be. Is there with all those things you just said, is there a concern or a want or desire to expand personnel? Obviously, you just mentioned how expensive everything can be, but are you guys concerned about having 1, 2, 3, 5 more people in any capacity?
We've thought about it. We've tried it. There was one year that we did have a third man, and he was going to be the reaction cam and learn the other positions and learn other things. That didn't pan out.
Mm-hmm.
That's a hard commitment to ask of anyone.
Mm-hmm.
So we would like to be able to be a little hands off, but still maintain the same quality control. But that's just not viable at this point for us. I'll say. A lot of things go into being a good camera op that people just don't realize. They take for granted that when they're watching coverage that they understand what's going on. But when you're live in the moment, if you don't know what you're doing, well, I guess we've had that experience of people realizing that when the Pro Tour had another production company do it for us and they didn't understand disc golf, and it was evident.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we wouldn't want to hand off our brand that we built this long to someone else without being able to maintain the quality of it. And adding another person right now just wouldn't be a good business move. It's a commitment from us and them, right? I wouldn't want to say, hey, we want to do this for you, and then in the middle of it say, hey, we can't do this for you. Like, that's not the type of businessman that I am or that I have been. And when I make a commitment, I try to hold to it and hopefully deliver beyond it if I can. So I think at this point, us being a 2-man crew and still maintaining the quality and the controls that we have is what's best for us right now. So I'm not looking to expand for anyone permanent. We do still have friends to help. We have local talent that we can use. But as far as making that commitment to bringing on someone full time, I don't think we're there yet.
Well, I want to expand on that just for a moment too, and say, if we look at as far as I know, almost every single production crew, live or otherwise, they were friends and were probably in it from the get-go without illusions of getting rich. There was a friendship that was kind of the initial, I think, of GK and how they kind of banded together. Jonathan, of course, then, pulling in a good friend, pulling in a relative. Johnny and myself from a live perspective. The guys over at Gatekeeper, two good friends. Like, that's kind of how it has to start, because you got to both realize, like, you're in this boat together, and it may sink or not, but it's just the two of you that you're impacting.
And there.
and then you have to decide if you're bringing in someone that's maybe outside of the friend group, so to speak, like having all those promises, like you were just mentioning, Conrad, having those ideas, I think is very daunting to get somebody else to buy in on board, because now you have to truly convince and deliver to someone that may or may not have all the same passions that you guys have.
Yeah.
It's a wake-up call. When you first go through it. I mean, we slowly did it, and bit by bit we learned, and we expanded equipment, and we took all the money that was coming in and kind of use it to grow and get better. But when you're talking about, when we tried in 2023, we brought somebody on, and when they realized we're driving from Georgia to Las Vegas, and we're sleeping on an air mattress for this week, and hey, we're going out and filming in the snow, and then we're driving all the way back across the country, and then we're going to go ahead and go to Texas. And that it takes a certain type of insanity to be able to do this on a weekly basis, so to say. And it's a big commitment. And if you're not, like you said, if you're not kind of in it from the beginning, it's harder to convince that person unless they're completely all about it. And some people think that they are. They're like, oh, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to join in. I see what you guys are doing. And then you see what the rabbit looks like when it's bad Chinese at 3:00 in the morning while you're trying to edit and also catch a 30-minute nap because you're waiting for something to render. It's a whole nother level. We've slept in an RV through a hurricane in New World, and we've slept on concrete floors and had to sleep on a really old and dirty couch at a clubhouse at DDO, just while not getting sleep for 3 days because of a rain out of one round, and having to try to play catch up and get 2 rounds out in a single day. So there's a lot of fun. There's amazing personalities on the road that you get to interact with, and the experience and going to see some of these places is indescribable. But the reality is that there's moments where you blow an alternator in Kentucky, and now you're stuck in the middle of Kentucky for an extra 48 hours because you got to get to Canada, and you got to kind of figure it out on the fly. So there's a lot that goes into it that people never hear about. I won't even get into like the whole disc golfers and their use of buckets and things because there's no bathrooms, but it's a crazy world out there.
Well, it is. And then there's so much trust. And like you were even just kind of alluding to, those are all the things from you guys in a production side. And then there's the extra layer of the tournament director, the Disc Golf Pro Tour agreements, stipulations, standards, protocols. Then there's, the on-site wherever you're staying, like that brings a whole nother layer to it. And then after all of that, you're going to be dealing with these players of some that are going to be more dependable than others, and you usually learn that the hard way. Things of that nature, players that are just more respectful than others and are more committed than others. You're going to learn that. And then I guess even another layer on top of that is just, like you said about a car, technology. There's days where just Adobe or whomever just flat out don't play nice. And you're everything's going so great. You're ahead of schedule. Things are just cooking, and then all of a sudden, one wrong error, and next thing you know, it's an hour and a half of effing around with your computer, and it's just completely that hour and a half is lost, and now you're behind instead of being ahead.
So, talk a little bit about my language. Let's talk a little technology. What are you guys working with? What computers are you guys using right now? Are you Windows, Mac? Like what does the workflow look like? Adobe, I'm assuming, like everybody else?
Yes, Adobe. I've been working with a ROG Republic of Gaming Asus gaming computer, one of the flagship models from 2022. Cost me about $2,200, $2,300. That's the laptop that we use for a lot of the rendering. While we're on the road, I also recently got a gaming computer set up for home so that I can do stuff here as well. Felix was working on a much slower computer because I don't want to say because what he was rendering wasn't as important, but it wasn't
It's time sensitive.
Yeah, correct. But now we've upgraded his computer too. I was thinking of Terry when I bought it. When I saw it, and
Did you go MSI? Is that what you did?
yes, I did.
All right.
MSI with a nice graphics card, a lot of RAM. I think it has a
fast.
i7.
It's fast for rendering.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's totally different than what
Slow for everything else.
I haven't even talked to him about because I just recently got it for him, so I haven't even talked to him about the difference in speed. But for me, the difference in speed and rendering from my old desktop to my laptop, we're talking about for a 30-minute video, I was around 50 minutes on my old desktop. On the laptop, I was sub 9 minutes, so I could render a full 30-minute video in less than 9 minutes. It was yeah, and that makes a world of difference when you're talking about getting commentary done, doing other stuff. I mean, that's an hour difference for 9 holes. So we're talking about 50 minutes for 9 holes. You're talking about for a full round, that's a hour and a half easily gained.
Mm-hmm.
That's some sleeping time. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
that.
That means you can get to Taco Bell before they close at 2:30 a.m.
Yes.
when you have to.
You know.
Yeah.
And then regret it the next morning. Yeah, I get it.
But
We've all been
you
there.
got there.
Yeah. Yeah, I still have an older HP laptop that I use with an old like Intel Core i7. But yeah, it still works. The bulk of the editing for the last 3 years, 3.5 years have been done on this, the line edit and all that stuff, and I still use it. Like we said, we got the new MSI. I'm still getting used to it. It is very fast when it comes to running Adobe, but it's kind of slow on bringing up other stuff for some weird reason, even though it's more powerful. I don't know what it is about that, but yeah, the rendering has been, yeah, probably. The rendering's been super fast. So, I'll put together a 30-second reel, and it might have taken me a couple of minutes to render here, maybe 5 minutes or whatever. It's 30 seconds to render on the new one. So that's nice. That's pretty cool. Well, we'll see. It'll be the first test will be that the Chainhawk when I go to edit 3 cameras on it and see how quickly it rips through.
So I'm going to follow that up with, and this is meant as a compliment session for the both of you. Conrad, tell us the one thing that you love that Felix does that you don't have to do, that you're super happy and thankful that he does it so that you don't have to.
He probably already knows this, but all right. So, I'm going to say it and give an example. So at, what was it? The one in Cary, North Carolina. What event
Jacksonville?
was that?
You guys know that was in Florida recently. Myrtle Beach Open?
No.
North Carolina.
I don't know.
Yeah, Cary, North Carolina.
Where you guys are. Oh,
the PDGA.
the Masters, U.S. Tim Selinsky Masters.
Yes, Tim Selinsky Masters.
Okay.
I had to do the final round, everything. Graphics, line edit, commentary. I had to put all that together. So I got a taste of everything. And I'm happy not to do line edits. That's not, I'm not as fast with that. That's not obviously I can do it if forced to.
Mm-hmm.
I did have to do that event for that round, the final round. I did everything, the graphics, the line edits, the commentary, and still got it turned around in the next day, publishing for the PDGA. But yeah, I appreciate not having to do the line edits. That is something that he is much better, much faster, much more efficient. He has a process that I don't. If I needed to learn it, I would, but I don't need to, so I don't.
And when you say line edits, you're talking A/B camera cuts, like just the for everyone at home. That's cutting between throw and catch. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen Terry do it. He's a madman. I tried to learn his shortcuts one day, and I ended up just doing it with the mouse, and I think I did 9 holes in the time he did like 2 rounds. So it is a you are a machine at times once you get into that role. Once you understand all the shortcuts and things like that, it is pretty amazing.
Okay, so that's and I know you had a family emergency and sorry to hear about all of that.
Yes.
That's why that unfolded for you, Felix. Yeah. But Felix, what are you just ecstatic that you are so happy that your partner in crime there takes care of or does?
It's 2 things. One is the graphics package. He is much better and much more adept at After Effects. So I'll take on After Effects when I need to, and it's usually while watching a YouTube video on After Effects, and I'm doing it in After Effects at the same time.
Yep.
That's me.
To build stuff. Yeah, so that's how I built like our profile boxes and our intro and all that stuff was through just trial and error. So he's much better at that, and I look at when I give him my part of the project, it's just video, 3 lines of video, 3 lines of audio, and then he stacks on another 9, 10, 11 lines of graphics and moving parts, and it just looks amazing and colorful to me, and I have no idea what any of it means. So for him to be able to get it done and drop it in place and things are moving in and out of the screen like they're supposed to, it's magical to me. The template that he does for the scores also, he's much better at Excel than I am, so he builds all that stuff. And kind of that background that he has in running a business in previous lifetime, his back end stuff too that he does, basically keeping the book straight, making sure that we're not falling behind on our taxes and or any of that stuff, and at the end of the year I can just hand stuff off to an accountant. He's like, all right, you're good to go. That's a big load off of the shoulders. The back end stuff is priceless. Like, it's just, that's another thing that a lot these like other YouTube channels or people that are aspiring to do this, is that you have to realize that keeping your finances in order is incredibly important. And if you're not dealing with all the tax implications and all that stuff that you're supposed to as you're growing your business, you will be out of business very fast.
Wait, we have to pay taxes?
So that's a big thing.
No, we pay tariffs. We don't
no,
pay
you guys
taxes.
are fine. If you haven't paid it, you're
it's
fine.
easy. It's so much easier.
As long as nobody knows.
I've got those all figured
Nobody
out
knows.
now.
That's good.
That's another great point, though. Seriously, is just that there is, if you're going to make a business out of this and operate like a business, there's a lot of business things you need to do, and it's very difficult when you're gallivanting, to use my mother's term, gallivanting around the country. Knowing what receipts you're keeping on to, how you're tracking stuff, what you're doing, so on and so forth. I guess it might be somewhat easy in that almost literally everything you guys are doing out on the road is going to be business related, almost. Of course, you have a few things that you do exclusively for fun, but for the most part, at least it's like, hey, everything we did this week was some form of work or related to what our end goal is. We've seen forever that, Felix, you're on the throw cam, Conrad, you're on catch cam. I always think that's an interesting dynamic as to who's where and why. For those, I think you've shared it before, but share it again as to how that came about, who took which role, and then what would it be like if you had to switch for a round or a weekend, switch roles for the weekend. But how did the throw catch combo come up for you guys as to who does what?
We used to switch, right? Every 9 holes.
We only did that for like 1 or 2 events.
Okay, I don't remember that.
We
but
started
okay.
off. Yeah, we started off as I would start on T-cam for 9 holes, and then we would switch. And we learned within the first couple of events that I can't track a disc from the catch position.
Okay, fair.
So the back half of our coverage was nearly unwatchable, thanks to me. So we learned that Conrad is much better at catch, and that's kind of been the order, so to say, up until really this year with the Pro Tour, because the Pro Tour is like, hey, your catch on chase or your catch on lead.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to get better at it. And I had to apologize to Sam and Cam the first couple times they put me on catch. I was like, I'm really rusty at this because I haven't done it in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of showed. So it got substantially better to the fact where towards the end of it, I was like, hey, let me do catch for Chase for the men and women. So I get 2 reps at it this time.
They're rarely going to live to you anyway. You're always in replay.
Exactly. Yeah.
We can look at that
Pretty
and go
much.
like, oh, we're not showing that one.
Yeah. Exactly. You could hear in Mo's voice from time to time. I was like, ooh, like I didn't get that one good, did I?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Mo has a hard time hiding things with his voice. We all know.
Yeah.
Just
Like
that
I didn't hold on that one.
disappointment.
Oops.
Yeah. It's worse if you get the sigh. Like you don't even get disappointed. You're just like, then you're like, oh crap, it hit the fan.
Yeah. It was fun having Johnny in the ear though. It was I didn't get you that many times in the ear this year as I would have liked because
I only did 2 shows. I did Beaver State and I think one other one earlier in the season. Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier in the broadcast. I'm like the one step past semi-retired. I've handed it off and I'm happy to do family stuff now. You're right. You spend 6, 7, 8 years building up a company, and at some point, it just, if it's not what you're going to do, it's not what you're going to do, and that's what this was for me.
2025 also will likely see you guys teaming up with or some partnerships and collaborations with the PDGA, or is that in limbo, on either your side or the PDGA side? Because you guys have been a staple within working with the PDGA, it feels like, for the last couple of years as well. Where do things kind of stand there?
We love working with them. We haven't discussed any details. This isn't a time of year that we discuss details with them, so we don't know exactly what events they want us at, but we're open for all of their all of the majors that we normally cover. I would expect that we would be back there, but again, no details have been discussed, so this is just me speculating what we would like to have happen. But yeah, we love working with them. I don't think I'm trying to think if there's a drawback between. They're our preferred company.
Okay.
We love working with them.
I'm sure things are pretty straightforward. When you guys are at the majors, it's you know exactly what you're going to be working, what you're scheduled to cover. Things are very consistent. I would like to think time and time again, and I could see how that's probably I don't want to say relaxing, just comfortable for you guys to be able to do that.
Comforting to know.
They trust us, which is a big thing. They know that we get there, we're going to deliver on the product that they set out for us. We hit the standards that they're looking for, and a lot of times we try to exceed what they're looking for. We meet all the deliverables on time. Nobody has to be chasing us to send them stuff on a timely basis. It's there ahead of time. So they've come to like that, and we enjoy being able to deliver on that, and because we respect them, and it's a mutual respect between both organizations.
Yeah, I'm going to just follow that up quickly and say I know there's a challenge, but yet an opportunity when it comes to having coverage that you guys are, we'll say, the backbone to. You guys are actually putting it together. Same with what we've seen from Gatekeeper, but then it's going on the PDGA's media channel. And we all 4 of us, plus lots of our viewers, I'm sure, can find plenty of pros to that model and also some cons to it. Have you had conversations as to one or another that's, we'll say, either more lucrative and or more advantageous or not to that model as opposed to putting it on your own channel?
With it not being on our channel, we miss the traction with our viewers, right? Even if it's on the PDGA's channel, and even the viewers know that it came from us, we don't have that content, so we're lacking views, we're lacking traction, we're lacking just the
Growing the
interaction.
brand.
Yeah, we're lacking that, and there's no way around it. That's what they want. They're trying to build the PDGA's presence, and so that's why we know that going in.
Would you think about doing something, or I'm sure this is all conversation with the PDGA, a highlight reel, kind of like how the PDG or the DGPT does, maybe put that on your channel and then point for full for full round coverage, go see PDGA YouTube page or something like that. And even if it isn't, I know obviously producing next day stuff is time consuming. You don't have time to do that next day, but a day or two later or something like that. And again, I know that's a lot of work, because I've suggested a lot of things to Terry that are a lot of work.
Yeah, Johnny,
I
feel
don't have
good
to
with
do.
the. You know what you should do is. Yeah, those are.
No, it's what you could do.
Oh, yeah.
Not should. I never say should, because it's
well,
know,
thank you.
But you know what you could do? You could try this.
Yeah, and you could shut the hell up.
You're right.
With your brilliant suggestions.
I got lots of ideas that I don't have to do work for.
Yeah, exactly.
We've tried. We had a previous model with them back in like 2022, I want to say, before they kind of were like, "Hey, we just need everything on our channel." Where it would go on their channel initially, and then we were allowed to put it on our channel after 2 weeks or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it just didn't gain a lot of traction, because it's a rewatch at that point.
Yeah.
So if you're not adding something different to it, like we're bringing in another commentator, or we're watching it as a rewatch party with somebody else who was playing on the card, to add a different level to it, it just didn't kind of go anywhere. So we didn't see the real value in kind of going through that process. I would be open to doing something like that in terms of putting together a highlights package kind of next day to go out for it. We seem to have, Conrad and I kind of have a similar sickness where if we find a way to shave an hour or two in terms of efficiency off of our workflow, it's like, all right, now what can we pack into that hour or two that we just gained in order to kind of grow the fan base a bit? And for the most part, we find things to add in and kind of add to the coverage, but at some point you still want sleep also. So there's kind of that work-life balance, sort of say. But yeah, there's always different conversations. That's one thing about working with the PDGA, is they're open to ideas and conversations like that. And if it makes sense across both platforms, I'm sure they would be open to it. Yeah, it definitely would be more work though, for sure. Like Terry knows.
Oh yeah, exactly. Every extra cut is work. So maybe I missed it, but to be clear, do you plan on doing any Pro Tour events next year, or is that still just a conversation waiting to happen? Like, are you open to it, or are you looking to maybe, I don't say avoid as if it's bad, but avoid the tour and hit more A tiers, so to speak, that you can handle?
Well, I would want to say we can do both. Why we can't do both, Johnny?
Well, I mean, think about it. If the Pro Tour is in Oregon, you could be doing an A tier in Virginia or Kentucky or something like that. And you're not going to, obviously, with the Pro Tour, you're not getting the top names, but there's usually a pretty good regional pro or someone who's been on the tour that people know at that Virginia event or Kentucky event or wherever. I just didn't know if you were going to do, obviously you can do the Pro Tour and then fill in extra weekends. I just didn't know if it was more advantageous to just say, hey, we're going to focus on Ace Run and
everything but the Pro Tour.
Everything but the Pro Tour.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if, and this is something Terry and I have discussed, I don't know if there's a model there. I don't know if there's like the A tier model.
Yeah, we don't know either.
Why not?
There's
changes, Johnny.
And there's been we've been asked. I'll throw Philberg under the bus. At one point, he wanted us to just do the next gen tour. Like he was like, "Yeah, we'll have you on and do the next gen tour."
Mm-hmm.
We see that didn't pan out, but I don't think people have a lot of bright ideas that really just once it comes down to it aren't practical. So following a whole slew of AM players that are vying to be pros sounds great, but advertising wise, I don't think we would get the same amount of traction as following the Pro Tour with the FPO card. So it boils down to what's going to make sense, and right now we don't have all the information to say what's going to make the most sense for us for 2025. We don't know yet.
Okay.
Yeah, and
we're open to everything though. We're not shutting anything down. If Felberg brings the right number, we'll be all over those AMs. I mean,
sit by your phone and wait for that one.
No, and I won't give the internet voice, but you just hit on something perfect. Conrad, in that there a lot of people will throw out the suggestions of what would be great to cover, and that gets said every weekend, even when it comes down to individuals at the Pro Tour event. You should cover this player because they're the best player out of Maine. You should cover this player because they're the youngest player or they're the oldest player, and here's their story. That happens within an event. You have those arguments, and then you can start talking about every event around the country, whether it's an A, B, or C tier. Somebody has some angle that they think is the no-brainer, business model, marketing angle and perspective of, hey, this has the most amount of juniors at this event. They're the future of our sport. And hey, why aren't you covering, this senior-based event? Because those are all the pioneers and forefathers and godfathers and godmothers of our sport. And you're going to get all these views. The proof that we have so far, although the cup of pudding is small to pull from, the proof has been there that none of those are accurate. That doesn't happen. Yeah. And if you're doing any of those things, you're legitimately doing charity work. You're doing, things that are going to lose you money, and you're doing charity work. And it might be for the feels and the vibes and the good gestures, but it's, at the end of the day, that's charity work. And you can only do so much of that before even your charity runs out of business.
Yeah, we've covered, like, the first couple of years. We did smaller events. We didn't charge fees. We were out there just getting the experience, learning the craft, honing it, trying to get better. And there's still events that we'll get to that we don't charge nearly what we can, because we have a relationship with the people running that event, or people that are playing. They were like, hey, here's a chance to kind of put cameras on this person or that person that we love, so let's go out there and do it. But yeah, if you're doing that week in or week out, then it's no longer a business. You're not bringing home the money at the end of the night, and the mortgage is still real, and the grocery bills are still real. So we have to make the tough decisions, unfortunately, to skip on an event or not be able to cover a certain division or a certain field, because the opportunity isn't there in terms of bringing in advertising and being able to cover our costs for the next couple of weeks to get to the next couple of events. So it's a bleak reality sometimes, but you have to make tough choices out there.
Well, just keep in mind, I've got a friend that's going to be on third card in MA4 this weekend at the C tier, and
his mom would really like to see him on camera.
Yeah,
so if you could just,
I would like to get you guys.
Family. They would all love to see it.
I think we should film. We should film Terry filming Chainhawk. I think what people want to see is how Terry films
behind the scenes.
Two cameras, too. Two cameras.
Yeah, two cameras filming my one camera coverage. Well, there's some shenanigans that sometimes goes down when we're out there.
Somebody will watch it, Terry. Somebody will watch
it. Until people's families, get into the tens of thousands, because it's always, well, my family will watch or my club will watch. Well, unless your club's 10,000 deep of dedicated viewers, that might not be enough. So,
and a football stadium.
Yeah, and I want to reiterate, and I feel like, unfortunately, it's an easy road to go down. We're not here to have a bitch session or just complain about the struggles out there. I know you guys aren't trying to do that, and I'm not trying to convey that either. It is, though, we're sharing the very real struggles, because, like you said, they're glossed over, and sometimes, as fun as it is that we have out there and make the most of it and put out the content, there's a lot that goes on that I think a lot of people simply don't realize or don't take as serious as what it is in order to pull it off. And we can encourage people all day long to go out there and do it. And like we said, plenty of channels continue to pop up, and a lot of them, dare I say, have now a little leg up that they can see all the mistakes you guys have made, that I've made, that Joe Mez has made, that anyone has made. You can hit the ground running that much quicker and easier and better than you could 10 years ago. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And we haven't even touched on the comment section yet, which can just completely drain the life out of you after you've worked 14 hours to get to pro.
It can.
Yeah, it just takes one bad apple to ruin your day. That's why. Yeah.
But all the other good apples make up for it. So
usually, yeah,
sometimes,
usually,
yeah, sometimes.
Well, one thing you touched on, Terry, is those other crews like popping up and putting it out and going out and grinding at it. We worked with Disc Golf Van Life this past weekend or a couple weekends ago at the Jacksonville Open, and they're a smaller channel, and you know they're putting out great content. It's all this like local Florida stuff and all these local like Southeast stuff that they're putting fantastic to watch. And one thing that I take to heart is when we first got started, Gatekeeper Media and Derek specifically took it upon himself to kind of reach out to me and kind of tell me, hey, you know, when you're editing, try to look at this or try to look at that, or when you set up in position wise, looking at your coverage, think about this, think about that. And that's one thing that I try to impart. If somebody's starting a channel or getting involved and kind of really diving into it, and they reach out, I'm more than happy to share what little knowledge I have about this whole industry and little tips and tidbits to help out, because it was done for me, and I'd like to pay that forward. So it kind of warms my heart to see these other channels, as long as they don't try to take our events anyway, go out and try to build and grind on their own.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel the same way. And there's always going to be great events that people can go out and cover. They're plentiful everywhere, and get yourself started. Whether it's a C tier, B tier, A tier, doesn't matter. It's a matter of going out and logging in those hours of the practice and honing your craft and continuing to get better. And when it's like anything else in life, when you're good, it's going to be undeniable that your services are going to be requested, or that you're going to get hired, or whatever the case might be. You can only be low key for so long if you're doing a great job out there, and people are going to notice that, whomever that might be, whether it's in events or other crews, it's going to be out there. And then you can get on the grind and realize how fun it really is out there.
It's all worth it when you get that play button, though, right?
Yeah, that I suppose so. I still have to hit the button to get mine. I was blessed enough to hit that mark in March, and I was so excited. You want to talk about like an empty, weird feeling? Like, I got it. It was a really big deal once I got there, and now I haven't even hit the button for them to like send it to me.
Terry,
just do it, Terry.
Come on.
I think I need to record me hitting the button. That I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, if it's not
I
on
think
the
we should
internet,
do it live right now. I think is what the
no, I will admit, I promised my 13-year-old, who's very happy about the accomplishment. I promised her that she could assist in producing the video of officially claiming my silver play button. So. But I'll do it sooner than later. How about that? All right, guys. I'm excited to see you guys this weekend. It's going to be Chainhawk. You guys are FPO lead card coverage, feature then lead card coverage. On that, we had a conversation just a few weeks ago about even releasing footage. And so maybe just provide a little insight to the world about timing and time of year, but then also release timing and what that really means to you guys and what it means to our industry.
Yeah. We try not to put stuff out that's going to get trampled by other channels. So I know you like to put out next day for Chainhawk. That wasn't the plan for us. So I just wanted to make sure what your schedule looked like so that we're not kind of butting into your audience and vice versa. But this time of year, it's a little easier because we know, all right, on Mondays, it's usually Jomez putting games. On Tuesdays, it's usually GK skins. And then that kind of leaves the rest of the week, if there's no other tournament being dropped that weekend, to prep for the stuff that you filmed ahead of time to drop. It's a little harder when we have an A tier while the Pro Tour is kind of in full swing, because they're usually not as much anymore. But it was almost every weekend something was coming out. So we had to kind of plan the drop either midweek, or if there wasn't a weekend being utilized by the Pro Tour, then we can drop on that weekend. So it's strategic, and you try to work with other channels so that at least we try to anyway, so that we're not trampling each other in terms of trying to get the same viewership, because there's a big pie, so to say, but it's kind of small when everybody's eating at it at the same time.
Yeah.
To add to that, I want to say, like, when we were doing next day coverage on the Pro Tour, we did see a difference in our numbers, because we're dropping the exact same time as Jomez, the exact same time as Gatekeeper, and the exact same time. So there's only so much time that any disc golf avid fan can dedicate to watching disc golf. And if we don't prioritize when we drop, then we get sub prioritized when we get watched. So we try to make sure that we are doing the best that we can, not just for exposing our coverage, but also for the events that we're representing, that they see the value in when we drop the coverage as well.
Yeah, I agree. There's a whole nother world of strategy and psychology that goes into all of this. And like you just said, when you're dropping, we'll say, chase card of FPO versus lead card of MPO, human nature is obviously going to bring, even if your coverage is 1,000 times better, people are still going to go to that MPO lead card, which, logistically does make sense, but fighting for some of those times or attention can be really difficult. So trying to find strategic ways to, entice people is certainly all part of the psychology of overall just YouTube videos and how we've all trained our viewers, right? Like I remember having a conversation with Brian from over at Great Lakes Disc, and he was talking about his analytics for his YouTube videos, and they look completely different than mine, where mine probably look very similar to you guys in terms of when our viewers are expecting and or watching stuff, and his were at a totally different time of day and different days even, because that's what he's kind of trained his subscriber base to. Where, the ones that we release are next day, usually, between, 9 and noon or whatever. It's just kind of funny to see and to then play into when your viewers are ready and available. So, yeah, it's a whole, like I said, a whole nother psychology to it for sure.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. Is there anything, I know I've asked a lot of kind of random questions that just pop into mind, but is there anything that we didn't touch on that you guys would love to share? Good, bad, indifferent, news, strategies, anything else, planned ssegments, and what people should expect? Kind of give us the pitch. What else you got?
Right, I have something on top of mind right now because I just added 220 discs to our website.
Awesome. Which is
acerunpro.com. You can find the shop there under /shop, or just click on the link. I don't like being paid in merch. Some of those discs that we have are from 2022. So
they're collectors. Those are classics.
So go buy them.
Yeah.
Those are.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you added a lot of stuff on there.
Yeah. So we just put a lot. Like I said, I just put 200 discs on there. We originally had like 150 on there. That's gone down since then. But so we have discs on the website to go check out. They're only ones that I put on there. I don't put, like, we have like a Rive. I don't put the Rive on there because you're not coming to my shop to get a Rive. You're coming to our shop to support Ace Run Pro. So we have the Ace Run Pro stamp disc there. If you do want a Rive, let us know. We'll look in our collection.
We have Rives.
We have Rives. We also have Graces.
Yeah. Yes.
I think those are the only two that we have remaining that aren't stamped with our logos. But everything else that we have on there is stamped with our logos. Running a shop is a totally different gambit of disc golf than filming, than being a content creator. It is like it's retail, and retail is totally different than everything else that we do.
I fell flat on my face when I tried. Honestly, if you go to SmashBoxx, I think there is a merch thing in there that has like some polos, and it never, like, I could never get the hang of it, the gumption to do it. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot. Yeah.
And I just couldn't dedicate the time that I wanted to, because everybody wants to. Everybody wants to put up a store. Everybody wants to think that, oh man, I'm going to get like 4, 5, 6 orders a week, and it'll be real easy just to package them up and bring them to the post office. It's not. It's a pain. It takes a dedicated person, or a person who is dedicated, to do something like that. And it is. So now we just give that stuff away. when you need an old polo from 2020, I got one. You know,
especially when you're on the road, to manage a shop is even harder.
Yeah, it's
almost it's a pain. But yeah, more stuff on the website. So if you're looking to support us in the off season, We have now, before it was just, I think, Discraft and Prodigy that we had on there. Now there's Castoplast, Discmania, Trilogy, quite a few different options to pick from. So, and some plastics that are only available through special programs that we were provided. So, like a Lucid Marshall or a Glow Reco or Glow Bird that weren't available before, but different plastics that you may not be able to get your hands on, hybrid Raiders, things like that weren't always available. So check those out. And our Discraft selection has actually been discounted, which we started when we did the Big Rip Classic, which is sponsored by Discraft. That was all discounted, so that discount remains in place. So you're saving, I think, $6 or $7 per Discraft disc.
Wow!
If you go to the website now, so if you're looking to pick up some stuff for your family and friends.
And you guys
I just undid that, but I guess I'll redo it again.
Go ahead and redo it.
Lock it in there for another 2 weeks.
Let's
Let's extend that discount. AceRunPro.com/shop. And I have also put that in the chat. So if anyone wants to click on it, or
sweet.
if you're listening in, that's where it is. Or if you head over to AceRunPro.com, and there's a shop button that will get you there as well. So,
and you guys also have a Patreon, right?
We do.
We do.
Yeah.
Patreon.com/AceRunPro. We try to keep everything simple. So all of our socials are at AceRunPro. Our Patreon is at AceRunPro. We need to do some more live podcasts for that. We've kind of fallen behind on that as well. But for $3 a month starting, you get access to early content, exclusive content. For $5 a month, you get a disc sent out, or you get in a drawing to get a disc sent out every month. And then we have a quarterly drawing for our $10 and above patrons also, which you can win both. If you're a $10, you could win the $5 and the $10 one. So, and we've had that happen before in the past, and it wasn't rigged, we swear.
So clean house.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. All right, gentlemen. Well, thank you for sharing a little bit of insight, not only to 2024, but also how you guys are kind of gearing up for 2025, sharing some of the realities of the road and then some. As we all know, it's a lot of fun out there. It's also a lot of work, and you guys, of course, have plenty of sacrifices on the home and work front and everything else, even financially, so that you can continue to bring everyone disc golf coverage. And I'm sure not enough people say it, but we all thank you for all that dedication. The hours are long, the grind is real, and the financial payoff might not be there now, and hopefully it gets there, but it's an incredible service that you're doing for the entire disc golf community, and we all appreciate it.
Oh, thanks, Terry. We appreciate you guys too. You guys are pioneers in this, and I still never forget the time that we met you at the Hall of Fame Classic, and you were offering to give us one of your mics because our mic was broken or something. But, so just always genuinely a good person, and we always appreciate running into you. And hopefully we can grab dinner or something this week in Florida.
Yeah, I would love that, and looking forward to a good weekend down there as well as we continue to close out 2024, and I'm sure we're going to all be plenty busy in 2025. One last question. I was just about to close it up, but bucket list, where do you guys want to get to film something yet? Big or small event, doesn't matter, but where are you guys thinking, man, we can't wait to get to blank to film?
Go ahead and say it. Man. Go ahead and say it.
There's like three for me. One is coming up. We're actually going to Puerto Rico to film with GK Pro.
Yep, I love it. Where you're like hired guns, basically. They're gonna. You guys are working cameras. You won't have to necessarily do the edit. You get to hand that off, but you're hired guns. Okay, Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
Obviously, you, Felix, you have ties there, correct? Family ties and
such.
Yeah,
I get to see my mom and my sister and my aunts while I'm out there. Okay. So that's gonna be fun.
Okay. What else?
We still haven't been to Europe. I want to go to Europe at some point, Estonia or Finland, all that stuff.
Yep. Okay.
And the last one for me is this tour down under in New Zealand. I'm a Lord of the Rings nerd, so I'd love to get out to New Zealand at some point.
Go see yourself a hobbit hole.
Exactly.
Wait, this isn't a dirty podcast. Watch your mouth. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't follow, but I don't think I need to know. Hobbithole.com. Okay. Conrad, I mean, do those all align with you, or do you have your own bucket list?
Yeah, I'm not going to object to any of those. I'm excited about the Puerto Rico trip. just because we're on the cusp of it, it's going to happen. I already know, where we're going and what we're doing. So and again, our workload is going to be different. So that's
Sure.
something to look forward to. Yeah, but I would say the same. I would love to be over in Europe, see some of those courses and just see some of the sites. Just not even have it be solely disc golf. Like be able to take advantage of time away from that and explore. And I didn't know about the Down Under tour that he was that was on his list, but that's good to know. We can make some moves to try to make that happen next year.
Yeah, obviously New Zealand is a magical place for so many reasons, and then to be there for golf and what they're doing to build up that tour, that's certainly going to be on everyone's radar in the upcoming years. There's no doubt about that. So understandable that it's on your list. I love it. All right, gentlemen. Well, thank you guys for joining us tonight. Thank you for, like I said, the insights. We know we got a long weekend ahead, and you guys are going to be out there grinding and working hard, but looking forward to, as you guys come off the course every day, I'll just probably be walking onto the course, and hopefully we'll find some time to share in between. But safe travels, and we'll see you in a couple days.
All right.
Sounds good, Terry. Thanks, JVD. Thanks, guys.
Always. Thanks a lot, guys.
See ya. Felix and Conrad, who make up Ace Run Pro.
They're pretty nice guys. They're good. They're good peeps.
Are they still listening? Yeah, I agree. I couldn't agree more. Of course, like Felix would say, just seeing them come into the scene, and I'm fortunate that I've been around for a while, so to see these additional channels come in, and then with every person that does it, they're taking what's happened and then usually elevating it and putting their own spin on it or their own way of doing things, finding their niche as to what they're filming or the extra stuff that they do. And those guys have been doing just that as well. And like you said, there's opportunities out there. You got to work for them, and you got to earn some trust, and that's whether that's PDGA, DGPT, and or specific events. But when you're doing good things and you're good people, I feel like that all pans out in your favor. So,
and as everybody's been saying on the board, some really great thumbnails they've been putting out. So, just saying,
I've been checking their thumbnails.
Yeah, go support them. Patreon.com/AceRunPro by all means. If you're not going to subscribe to us this week, go subscribe to them by all means.
We'll take that. That's a good trade-off.
Yeah, I mean, but you got one of two options. Those are your only two options this week. In fact, I'll say this week, I prefer if you go subscribe to them.
Yeah, I was just thinking if they cover 3 rounds of golf this weekend, it's probably about the equivalent of one podcast for us every week. So
yeah, about that.
Yeah. So somehow I don't know how that math works.
I think as a Patreon supporter, you're probably getting your better bang for your buck as far as number of videos.
One of the fair questions that I'll follow up with Felix and I'm glad to ask everyone else out there, when it comes specifically to my Disc Golf Guy Patreon, just like you already do with ours here on Smashbox, would that be considered enough of an incentive that the second I have a video uploaded that you have that early access to it? Does that move a needle for people? And why I say that is because I'm already predicting 2:30 a.m. Friday night, Thursday or Friday night, Friday or Saturday night, 2:30 a.m. I have 18 holes of the Chain Hawk round. It's completely edited. It's uploaded. I finally made the thumbnail. I've done all this stuff, and let's just say it's 2:30 a.m. and I'm 100% done. That's a little bit
ambitious,
but let's just say it is. I then schedule on YouTube. I schedule that it'll be East Coast, so I'll probably schedule it for like a 10 a.m. release on the East Coast. Would my Patreon subscribers appreciate it if I went out to Patreon at 2:30 in the morning, put in all the information, and then actually scheduled it so just the Patreon members could in fact access it immediately?
I don't think it would hurt.
See, because I'm always, we'll say, so late, I'm never like getting something done at 2:30 a.m. but not releasing it for 3 more days. Like it's usually just going to be a few hours later. I don't know if that would move any needles, but I guess you're right. It couldn't really hurt. as an added bonus. And that's similar to what we do with the podcast.
We do.
Obviously, every week. Now, you're doing that by days, and they get the added advantage of not having any ads whatsoever.
Yeah, with SmashBoxx, you get the full podcast on your own private RSS feed from start to finish with no ads, no breaks, no nothing, and you get that immediately tonight after we record. I upload it. It's the first thing I do. Everything else is scheduled and broken out. So the regular show goes out tomorrow morning, 7:30 or something. The after show will go out Friday at like 7:30 in the morning. But you don't have to wait, and both of those will have ads. I jam-pack them full of ads.
Yeah, you do.
It's like 27 ads per... Okay, there's not. But no, the primary thing is you get them early and you get them ad-free with the Patreon supporters. So, yeah. But I don't see why you couldn't do something like that.
All right. Well,
You'll think about it.
I'll think about it. No, I do love the idea, and I don't see a reason not to do it. I apologize. I was just talking a little trash to one Paul McBeth, and that goes hand in hand, not just name dropping him for no reason. Paul McBeth, who just told me moments ago he's only played like 5 times since the Disc Golf Pro Tour finals. This weekend, as in Thursday specifically, which is just before the weekend, I guess, he's going to play in the skins match taking place over at the Chainhawk Open.
Ooh.
So the last couple of years, I've been able to get down there a day early so that we could record the skins match. This year's no different. We're going to see a skins match happen, and super excited to have that happen. And it looks like Paul, who is not playing in the event, is coming over just to play in the skins match on Thursday. So, of course, I'm going to be recording that and putting it out there. In case you're curious, it's going to be at 2:30. If you want to come see it live, it's going to be at 2:30 Northside Park on Thursday, 2:30 p.m. And we're going to have Double G, Garrett Gerthy, Gavin Rathbun, both of which have won this tournament, Double G and Gavin, McBeth, and Helmar Fredriksson, who comes out of Sweden. And he's been on my channel from 2022's Swedish Pro Tour that I covered. So it would be exciting to see him again on the channel. So that's what you're going to see this weekend. He also comes in as, I think, the 8th or 9th highest rated player and a little European flavor. So super excited to see this weekend. So that's all going to be taking place on Thursday. Friday we'll have a feature card, and then obviously Saturday and Sunday it'll be lead card, MPO action, all on my channel. Time to chow. Let's chow.
Time to chow.
All right, let's quickly run through anything, any events this last weekend of note that you want to throw out there.
There wasn't one single event this weekend of any significance, Terry Miller.
Well, I wouldn't say that.
Zero significance.
That seems a bit harsh.
No, there were no A tiers or above. I know you ran an event this weekend.
Oh, I did.
You did. You did. We'll talk about that a little bit in the after show. Just about how the event went and whatnot. So there were really no PDGA big events. I think there's a B tier out there somewhere, but there were no A tiers. So let's talk a little news. After our show last week, a couple things were announced. The DGPT Players of the Year. Just as we predicted, Gannon Burr and Kristen... nope, not Kristen Tatar. It was Missy Gannon, Terry.
Missy
Gannon won it in a playoff. She won in a tie, basically. She got the tiebreaker because of her points. Apparently, the way the vote broke down, it was tied between Missy and Kristen. And so DGPT beforehand had said, hey, if there's a tie, off chance, tiebreaker will be tour points. Well, Missy Gannon, thanks to MVP Open, just kind of nudged.
Well, and the rest of the year.
Well, that was the deciding event. They were very close going in there, and Kristen Tatar kind of didn't hit the island on hole 18. It came down to one hole. Had she hit the island, she would have won the tour points. But anyway, Missy Gannon ends up winning the Elaine King Player of the Year, which is a DGPT award. Now, again, not to be confused, these are not the PDGA Player of the Year awards. These are the DGPT ones. So, Missy Gannon, which I think was a surprise to a lot of people, at least most of the media people I've heard and spoken with, had thought that Kristen was going to win. And Kristen Tatar had a great season. Missy had a great season. But ultimately, Missy ends up winning it. So congratulations to Missy Gannon. So she gets a Player of the Year award. I believe her second one.
And I have nothing to add in that. There's, of course, whenever there's voting, there's going to be, that's the whole point of voting. There's some subjectivity to it. There's how people perceive things and put it forward. There's awards that are based on some of those votes, and then there's other awards that are based strictly on statistics. And I think it's a very legitimate conversation to have, and you have very impassioned people on both sides that think Kristen's a clear-cut winner, and obviously just as many or more think that Missy's a clear-cut winner. It's great that we can have these arguments. I personally have nothing more to even add to that other than it's good to have the arguments, and no matter what I would say for one player or another, there's a counterpoint on the other side to be had. It always, I think, comes down to, just like we especially last year talked a lot about the Player of the Year on the MPO side. When you think about what is a world's title, what's that weight to you versus X amount of Pro Tour stops or Elite Plus Pro Tour stops, and how much more weight is placed on those, and how much more weight's placed on a given major, so on and so forth. So, and then there's always going to be, like it or not, there's always going to be a recency bias that plays in, I feel like, the end of the year.
She played very well at the end of the year.
I'm not trying to discredit Missy. I'm just saying in general, it's when you're placing these votes, a few weeks after the Pro Tour finishes up for the year, you're thinking about how Missy closed out this year. You're thinking about what she did at MVP. You're thinking about her winning the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship. So anyone, men or women, that close out strong at the end of the year, I feel like are always going to get that additional recency bias. And in this case, if she still checks all the boxes, the bias doesn't matter. But it's certainly going to be there for any player come a final closeout to a season or to a year.
Yeah, it's not like unheard of or unreasonable that she won.
Of course not.
Yeah, because again, she was the Pro Tour points winner, which means she had a good season, regardless of how you look at it. There is an argument for Evelina winning 2 majors.
Yeah,
there's an argument for Kristen Tatar, who was the first almost 1,001, first 1,000 rated FPO player this season. Like there are arguments for every player, and I get anyone that says anything either way. Where there is no argument was Gannon Burr. Oh. I don't think that you could make a serious argument for any other MPO player this year and not be laughed out of the room. Gannon Burr won this hands down. So congratulations to those two. I think those were the only two that weren't announced by last week when we aired. The other big news, kind of, Wednesday night at like 9:30 Central Time. That's Wednesday right before Thanksgiving.
Arguably the single biggest party night of the year.
Yeah, that's true.
And travel day. Go on.
And travel day. And the place where you go, the time you go to drop some news that you maybe don't want to be talked about all that much, Innova dropped a huge statement, more or less thanking Ken Climo for his time on the team, and that Ken Climo will no longer be an Innova-sponsored player. Something I honestly didn't ever think I would say. Even this, I feel like this is more of a surprise than Paul McBeth moving from Innova to Discraft. Just because Paul was in the prime of his career, and to me, it just wasn't shocking. Like, okay, someone was going to pay him more, someone was going to do this. Ken Climo clearly past the prime of his career, we're assuming. I mean, you never know. Maybe the guy makes a comeback. It made no sense to me when I first read it as to why him and Innova would part ways. And then I sat and thought about it. I was like, why? What are the reasons why Kenny and Innova would part ways, so to speak, because he wasn't a big drain on the pocketbook. He has multiple discs and a line of discs named after him, the KC line. It's not Kansas City, people. It's Ken Climo. Oh. Yep, just so you know. It might be Kansas City in the future, though. Who knows? And my only thought was that someone or something that Kenny's going to do is going to conflict with his Innova sponsorship. That is, and then you started seeing these rumors come out. You started seeing someone was pointing to a domain name that was registered like a month ago called Climo Discs. It was registered sometime in, I think, October 18th was the date that I saw. Mm-hmm. That could literally be someone domain squatting. Nobody has said anything. I don't know if it is. To me, it feels kind of legitimate, but I honestly haven't heard anything. So if that's the case and we're taking a big leap of faith, it sounds like Kenny might be trying to expand his Ken Climo brand. And maybe that's why the partnership that he's been with for, 30 years with Innova is splitting, is parting ways. And I don't even still quite know how to process it. As what some people say, as an old head, it's just something I honestly, truly never thought I would see.
Yeah. I can't add much to that. Climo is or has been synonymous with the Innova brand, just as Innova has said. I don't think Climo would anyway deny that. He's been synonymous with that brand especially when you and I were younger.
Long time ago.
Ken Climo was what Michael Jordan was to Nike. Mm-hmm. Like, he was the face. If you said Innova, that was the only person and image or imagery you had in your head. There was none. There was none. Only second, maybe, to saying Ken Climo synonymous with Innova would be saying AVR or Rock, but then eventually he had a Ken Climo series AVR and Ken Climo Rock. And by the way, which also two of which went on to become some of the most popular discs that Innova had for a number of years. The KC Pro Rock, the KC Pro AVR, two staples. When they had in the bags doing at any point or would list on the team website discs that people had in their bag. Almost every single player had a KC AVR and or a KC Pro Rock.
A 9-time or a 12-time.
Yeah, whatever it might have been, but they had them. Now, that was a couple of decades ago, or that was 10, 15 years ago. I get all of that, or a little more than that. I understand that. But those two names, Ken Climo and Innova, Climo was Innova, Innova was Climo. And I'm sure somebody at Innova otherwise might try to tell us otherwise, but for a number of years, for old people like Johnny and I, that was the case. Like you said, tons of rumors all over the place as to either what this could be and or even the relationship that they have had, especially in previous years. I'm not going to speculate. I've heard everything you've probably heard, maybe even more, maybe not, but I've heard it all. There's a few things that I know from relationships throughout the years. I don't know if any of that is advantageous to, I don't want to just say air dirty laundry, but like everything, there's he said, she said, or three side, he said, she said, and then somewhere in the middle, whatever the case might be. Yes, Kenny made a very pointed response, as did Ed here, even on the board tonight, where somebody made the comment online about making room for Mr. Robinson, meaning Isaac, and then Kenny replied back to that Facebook post saying, let's be very clear here, I dropped them. We get it. Like, there is some, how deep it is, who knows, but there's definitely a disgruntled and or
just a fissure, a fraction.
Yeah, something that has happened there.
Fracture.
You want to argue about how long it's been going for as to why. Kenny and probably about two other people really know that full story. I'm not too worried about it. I think just the sheer shock value of it even happening is what I think is crazy. Like this is like Bill Gates saying, yeah, I think I'm done with Microsoft.
I'm going Mac.
Like it's that crazy for especially for the older people. For the newer people, this may get totally lost and or may not be as significant or relevant, and that's fine. That's just a generational thing. But for someone of certain age group that grew up in the sport, knowing how these two names were interchangeable, Innova and Kenny, is wild. So everyone can speculate. I think it fits right into the standard protocol of plenty of people yelling at Innova, plenty of people yelling at Kenny, and everywhere in between because everybody thinks they know the story or the reasoning. I'll say this: even if I knew every detail, I probably wouldn't be at liberty to share it anyway.
I'm sure, and because I don't know every detail, I'm at liberty to make things up,
which I'm going to stay away from because I don't care.
That's a good idea. Ray says, hopefully Kenny will be more visible and active in the community now. I mean, and again, we don't know that this Climo Discs thing is real or not. I'm going to make the assumption that it is just because of the timing, but who knows? If it is, he will have to be more visible in the community because his name only pulls from, as we said, a certain crowd. Like you have to be, I would say, at least 35 years old, if not even a little older, to really have that nostalgia Ken Climo, where if Kenny came out with a new disc, you would want to buy it just to have it, just to check it out. Someone who's newer to the sport, they're not going to care. So Ken, if he is doing some sort of line of discs or bags or whatever he's going to do, he will have to be more visible in the community in order to make that happen. It is going to be very interesting and maybe fun to have Kenny back because Kenny's never been shy about his words. So I think if you follow him on socials, you know some of the things that he likes to chime on about. And that's Kenny. You know, we've been friends with him for years, and we've seen it.
Here's what I can say. I had a brief text exchange with Kenny today, and to keep it brief, he said thanks after I'd reached out to him, and then he said 1/1/2025 for more details. So keeping in line with the idea of either previous sponsorships being officially up as of 12/31, or just bringing in a new year with a new opportunity. Think back to 2013 is when we saw Prodigy make their official announcement on 1/1. Again, there was other agreements and other sponsorships that had to be completed as of 12/31. Again, new year, maybe that's when it just makes the most sense to make the new announcement. But his official phrasing to me was 1/1/2025. So everyone else we can continue to speculate for exactly 4 more weeks for another 28 days or so. But 1/1/2025.
And again, if the Climo discs thing is real, I'm curious as far as the manufacturing. Who's making these discs? Is it an external company that we've never heard of that's doing plastic and molding? Is it another company that Kenny has decided to work with, like an MVP or a Discraft or a Legacy or Lone Star or Prodigy, someone else that maybe is working with him in order to make these discs, or that he's going to be working with? Because I can't imagine another company would just want to sponsor Kenny for the name. Like, short of maybe just some long old spite from Discraft just for fun. But even that, I think we're past that these days. Mostly. I think we're mostly past that. I'm curious to see how that works, if there's a line of discs, where they come from, who makes them, how they're going to be advertised. All that stuff is interesting to me. That might not happen even.
There's definitely a branding opportunity for someone to partner and align with Kenny as arguably the greatest of all time, to align with him, to possibly have a brand expansion and team up in that capacity. I'll be interested to see who and what that would look like if it becomes a reality. There's a lot of different, yes, we see, something like Climo.dis as a domain. You also know right now, when you go to a paulmcbeth.com, that's obviously then has a fulfillment house. Those are obviously Discraft discs that are made as part of a lineup within Discraft, but it's the Paul McBeth line. Kenny has the KC Pro line. However, you don't know that we've seen that as emphasized in the last few years, and maybe he's thinking, I love the idea of having a KC Pro line or having a KC line, but someone else that's going to embrace it maybe a little bit more, or advertise or promote it a little bit more. I thought it was a real interesting shift. This goes back a little bit to get in the weeds. I thought it was an interesting shift many, many years ago when at one point as a tournament director, I could eventually order a KC Pro Rock with my event logo on it and a KC Pro
that didn't
AVR
have the Kenny logos on
with my event logo on it that didn't necessarily denote it as a KC disc, even though it was a KC Pro Rock and a KC Pro AVR, but I could get those custom stamped and someone wouldn't necessarily have any idea other than telling them that was the mold. And I thought that was an interesting shift. It was great as a tournament director and being able to get those discs into players' hands that wanted them. But from a marketing perspective, and that still happens. It still happens to this day. You can get a Paul McBeth, Zeus or whatever. You can get one of his discs or a Paige Pierce Passion that doesn't have her logo on it that you have no idea is a Paige Pierce Passion, but you get a tournament logo on it. I've ordered those just the same. And you got to wonder, though, does that put any kind of financial awkwardness into a situation depending on what the agreement is with the player? Are they getting paid the same when it still doesn't have their logo, but it's kind of officially their disc? There's a lot of things that go in these individual.
And that's going to be really interesting on Innova's side too. How are they going to rebrand KC? Are they going to continue to call it KC and not associate it with Ken Climo? Is it still going to be called KC for reference sake? Or are they going to have to come up with a new quote unquote plastic name that is going to represent whatever blend that was, whatever style,
until they say Kansas City plastic or whatever.
Exactly.
And if you think that's crazy, you don't think it's too crazy because we once had what was known as a CT Challenger, which was denoted as a Cam Todd Challenger. When Cam Todd not affiliated necessarily with Discraft, it became a Crazy Tough Challenger.
Yep.
So that concept's not completely foreign either, whether or not that's what's going to happen, or maybe it just becomes straight up pro plastic, and you drop the KC entirely. You're going to assume obviously they're not going to have rights to his name at that point. So we'll see. Plenty of interesting fodder to consider, and interesting timing nonetheless. After all of these years. There was something that was big enough that got them to part ways, and nothing for nothing. These two idiots in front of these microphones right now are wildly surprised, to say the least. So
some other rumors floating around. I think you hinted at it. If you go down to Reddit, you can kind of find some of these things. A lot of people talking about, like you said, Isaac to Innova, quote unquote, champ leaving to make room for Isaac. Isaac only has 2. I think he needs to rack up like 9 more or 10 more to catch Kenny. So I mean, he's working on it. You got to get the first 2 to get the next couple. So that's a rumor right now. Ezra Robinson, his brother, rumored to go to Discraft. These are all rumors right now. We have no clue what the teams are going to look like next year. I'm sure we'll find out come early in the year. And the other news that dropped, and this is maybe went over some people's heads, and I don't know truly. I can speculate if it's tied to the Ken Climo thing, but good friend of our show, former kind of co-host, a contributor, Dynamite Vichy, is leaving House of Discs, leaving Dynamic or not Dynamite, Discmania. Sorry, I said Dynamic.
Now under the umbrella of
No,
House of
it's all
Disc,
under House of
including
Disc.
Discmania.
Yeah, correct.
Sure.
He was no longer exclusive to Discmania. He was working with a lot of the different brands. But Dynamite Vici leaving. He said that he's going to take some time to get some stuff figured out, and he'll probably come back into the sport. I spoke with him separately, and he said he was very honored, and that when he made the announcement, he almost immediately had a couple people calling, asking, "Hey, are you available for a position? What would you like?" Like, people see talent. We saw it a long time ago.
Right here, back in 2014.
And now everybody jumping on the Dynamite bandwagon to try to get him a piece of that when, he's just our sloppy seconds. We love Dana. So we wish Dana nothing but the best. Hopefully he gets whatever he needs. I don't know. Maybe it's something related to the Kenny stuff. Maybe it has nothing to do with it and he's going to go somewhere else. He was very tight-lipped. I truly tried to get it out of him. And he was very, very tight-lipped about it. All he would say is that it'll be a few weeks to a month or two, and he'll let people know what's going on. So
I feel like you just dropped the biggest hint.
a few weeks to a month or two.
NBTB, nothing but the best. I mean, there's an OTB right now.
Oh, there is an
only the
OTB,
best.
yeah.
And then you just busted out the new company name.
Well, I'm sure some
NBTB.
I'm sure some Reddit, internet, YouTube thing will come on here and quote us and take what we're saying out of context. So no, ultimately, like we said, best of luck to Dana. I look forward when he finally does settle on whatever he's doing. You can guarantee we'll have him on the show to talk about it.
A little insight I'll give is Dana's got everything locked in.
Yeah,
it's just a matter of now being able to announce it. So. Well, yeah.
That's what this time of season is. It's a lot of people being like, "I got something going on," and you're like, "Yeah, really? I'll tell you. I'll tell you on December or January 1st,
or whatever." And I'll repeat what I've said 100 other times. Even when I do know info, I'm not going to share it unless that's what the player wants. And I. Whether that's integrity or being able to a good secret keeper, whatever the case might be, I don't get as amped up. Maybe I'm just becoming this old curmudgeon. I don't get as amped up and excited for some of this time because even when I do know stuff, if I'm explicitly not told to talk about it, then I'm not talking about it. So
correct. It's same here. I'm always amped up for our friends like Dana to be doing something new, just to some fresh. Something new is always invigorating to start out with. You don't know. I mean, who knows what the long run's going to look like? Maybe he loves it. Maybe he hates it after a year. You never know. But just getting into a new position always gets the blood flowing and ideas and things like that. So I'm looking forward to whatever this is.
All righty. Everyone's running their Discmas sales. Good. Everybody's running their mystery boxes. Great. Keep doing it. That's what I'll say to that. I've got no long-winded speech on it this year, but there is another level because obviously we're only getting more businesses, so it just feels like another level of.
Well, there's like you said, the mystery boxes, the Discmas boxes, the 25 days of YouTube blogging that some people are doing, and there's a lot of stuff going on right now. It's the time when people are taking the down season to build their brand.
Wait. Did we get breaking news on the show here? Is this an exclusive? Carney is telling us he's going with an open bag in 2025.
Wow, Carney Shill, open bag.
Wow,
That's
Carney.
That's a big one. Join the open bag club here, pal.
Yes.
I've been open bag for a while. I've been reaching out to
they're
manufacturers
not
to sponsor
beating down
me.
Your doors.
I've been reaching out to manufacturers to sponsor me, Terry.
All right.
I'm open for sponsorship. I mean, I'll take a small $20,000 to $30,000 a year salary, and I'll throw your plastic into trees probably and water, and rarely the basket, but I will throw them, and I will let everybody know that I throw them.
Fair enough.
Because I throw them a lot.
All right. Real quick. Super quick side note, I have released the Phoenix Ladies Open Round 1 montage, trying to get as many shots in there. Tell your friends, tag your friends. There was 130 women that played in the event. I don't think we got video of every single one of 130, but it was pretty damn close. So hopefully you're in there, or your friend is in there, your mom or sister or loved one is in there. And hopefully they can go out and enjoy it. But another great time at the Phoenix Ladies Open from a couple weeks ago, and excited to get that little montage out. It's always funny when I don't want to say new players, when players are on camera maybe for their first time, it's always funny to see some reactions, whether it was a good or bad shot, may or may not be significant. Just the idea of being on some form of coverage or camera is always funny to me. And I understand it. I get it. It's easy to get nervous.
I think whenever you're on camera for the first time, you should have to comment on the video.
Ooh.
Like if you see an MA4 player, and it's the first time on video, whether it's your channel or Ace Run or something, I think that MA4 player should go out and say, "Hey, here I am," and timestamp it. Just comment on it.
That's a good call, because we're going to all come back there in 10 years when you're an AM World Champ or a Pro World Champ.
Exactly.
It's a good call.
Make it searchable, findable. Put yourself out there. Just say, "Hey, cool, this is me," and put a little timestamp so everyone can notice. So people will click on it, be like, "Oh, that's that person. I'm going to associate this name with this face." Go out and do it, people.
Do it. That is a brilliant idea, Johnny. Are you exhausted? Is that the one for the day?
I think so. I've had a lot of bad ideas today.
Yeah.
I think I've had a couple good ideas today. And that was the first good idea I've had in the podcast.
All right. Fair enough. Well, with that, I have a good idea, which is we're going to call the regular show. That's pretty much everything that you guys need to know. And the rest of it's going to be all silly. Wait, it all was. So, but seriously, thank you guys for joining us in the after show. We'll talk a little bit about Cold Turkey 19. The C tier that we managed to pull off this last weekend, which was a lot of fun. I'll be able to talk a little bit about that. We also have giveaways, even though I forgot the discs in the car to show you, but we have giveaways that we'll be doing as well. And we'll talk about things disc golf and non-disc golf related, all the other silliness in the after show. Saw Tyler Brickley. We're going to have him join one of these nights. He's a media fella. We might have to have him join us here as well.
Only if Molly joins. She's really the brains behind that operation.
That's true. Makes sense. Well, either way, we'll have the after show, and let's face it, there'll be a giveaway. We all know that's what you're here for. We want to thank our friends Alex and Conrad. How about Felix and Conrad over there at Ace Run Pro? I was thinking Ace Run Pro, and then I go to Alex. Let's just call him Alex. Doesn't really look like an Alex, but we'll go with it. Anyway, Felix and Conrad over at Ace Run Pro, thank you guys for joining us. We'll continue to bring you some insights from various media groups over the next few weeks, along with some other special guests. But I love a little spotlight on some of our media crews here in Disc Golf. For Johnny V, I'm the Disc Golf Guy. That's SmashBoxxTV Podcast 535. We're going to take a very quick break. When we'll come back, we'll see you in the after show. You step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the Smashbox TV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV Podcast 535's After Show.
Nobody else sings their theme themselves.
They don't?
I don't believe so. I don't know. I don't watch a lot of other podcasts, but I don't think they do.
Well,
At least did not. Just
one
not
thing
in
we
disc
won't
golf.
get into is any form of singing contest.
Oh, God, no.
That would be
Why would we do that?
bad idea. All right. Well,
although
welcome.
Although you know what, I do love holiday weekends. Just for the free Sirius XM. Almost every holiday weekend, Sirius XM is free. I think because everybody's traveling, they're trying to support they give it to you for free. They want you to support it because driving home from Door County, which is about 2 hours from here, I flipped between more or less 3 different Sirius XM stations.
90s on 9.
Nailed it.
I think I don't know if it's 14 or 18, but the Pearl Jam channel.
Nailed it.
I doubt you went to the Lithium channel.
No, that was the other one. That was the third one. That was
pretty good.
Those were the 3, Terry.
There you go.
There was an occasional 80s on 8.
Yeah.
Only if I hit the other 3 and there was nothing on it. Only because sometimes you get like a fun, like we hit 80s on 8 and we heard Warrant Cherry Pie.
Yeah.
So my wife and I are singing along in the front seat to it.
It's hot, yeah.
It's very rare that we hit the 80s on 8, but we did. So I love the free Sirius XM weekend. Not enough to pay for Sirius XM full time because I don't travel enough. But I do love the fact that I can bounce between and be like, oh, hey, it's En Vogue. And then over here it's Even Flow Live.
Yeah.
And Lithium was doing a holiday special where they were doing a bunch of acoustic stuff. So Lithium, which is like their alternative stuff. So you'd suddenly hear, Alice in Chains Unplugged. And it was mostly 90s on Lithium this weekend. 90s and maybe a little 2000s, alternative as they called it. So it wasn't so much the newer stuff that you hear on Lithium. So for like 2 hours, I just bounced between 3 of them. Anything I could sing to.
One of the rare times where I'm not going to say ahead of you, but that is a minor splurge that I do have is ever since getting my new car a couple years ago and then getting some introductory offer to Sirius FM.
Baller.
Now, I don't pay for any other kind of
Baller.
Spotify's or paid, whatever that other...
Probably like Pandora.
I've never paid for any of those, and every time they attempt to raise my price on Sirius, I call in and either tell them I'm going to cancel or have a conversation about getting it back to the $6.17 a month or whatever it is, something like that. It's in that neighborhood now. I feel like I just got billed for it. It's somewhere in that neighborhood, and that's if it gets any more than that, I'm out, and I will cut it because I don't care enough. However, the channel I clearly live on is the 90s at 9, so that's why I immediately went there with you. But I'll dabble into those other 2, but the 90s at 9. If I'm not with my kids who have heard much worse, but if I'm not with them and there's nothing on 90s at 9, I then also will slip into the 40s, the Shade 45 and the Hip Hop Nation on 43 or 40, somewhere in that neighborhood. But
I just don't drive enough, and when I do, I podcast almost exclusively. So it just wouldn't make any sense to do Sirius for me. But when I do get it, because it's always on holidays, and it's always when I happen to be driving, so they're very clever that way. I love the experience.
If it's a long enough drive, I will then also, I enjoy generally going to the comedy channels as well in the high 90s. Is it high 90s? Yeah, somewhere in the high 90s, I'll sometimes go to those.
Do you remember growing up, there was somebody local to the Appleton area, I believe, or Appleton, Green Bay, electronics store, kind of like a crazy... I listened to a podcast this weekend. It's called World's Greatest Con. It's about a guy named Crazy Eddie who was a staple in the New York Tri-City area. He kind of started the whole like, I'm insane, get this at this price, like that. And there was a whole deal on him about how big of a actual scam artist he was. Skimming off the books, being stabbed at one point, going to prison, all these things about what he actually did in order to expand his empire, literal stock fraud, And I vaguely remember somebody up in the I'm sure every local area, probably every larger local area probably had something like that had an electronics store. And I couldn't remember if ours was an American or someone else that had like this. I vaguely remember like this kind of crazy guy that was trying to sell you. It wasn't like a Van Vrede's, but something like that. Maybe including, you don't remember.
It doesn't ring a bell.
So, but yeah, anyway, if you're interested, go check out World's Greatest Con. It seems like every year they put out a fun podcast that's 2 or 3 episodes long about exactly what it is, either con artists or schemes or things like this. And I enjoy it quite a bit. And then my family always gets to listen to it because that's one of the now a holiday tradition that we've done since they're releasing those. So that's fun.
Well, speaking of this weekend, as per tradition, it was in fact the weekend for cold turkey. And I don't mean just the leftovers, folks. I mean the Cold Turkey 19, an event that I've been running. Well, that's been happening. Let me rephrase that. It's been happening for 19 years. I have been your tournament director for 18 of those years. The 1 year that I'd missed was 6 years ago when I had this incredible opportunity to go to Australia and be there for multiple weeks. And so Tom McManus had stepped in as your official tournament director back in like 2018. But other than that, I've been there for the other 18 as your TD. This weekend was on the books, roughly a max capacity of 72 each day. Players play 2 rounds at the Gray Fox course, which is in southeastern Wisconsin. I've talked about this many times. I often have run the Skyline Classic out there as well. And then this event has been out there for the last probably 8 or 10 or 12 years. It's been out there for quite some time. And thank you to everyone that came out. Thank you. It was between 10 and 14 degrees this weekend in southeastern Wisconsin. Thankfully, no fresh snow or any snow on the ground at all, actually. But it was chilly. And then we experienced anywhere between 0 and 10 miles an hour for the wind, making it even more chilly. So that's what we were dealing with. When it was all said and done, had a great turnout. We had about 60-some on Saturday, 60-some on Sunday, so just shy of full both days. And then we had a flex start going on the other 9-hole side of the course, where you played through 9 holes twice on the Red Fox side. That was happening concurrently with everything on Saturday. And we had 20-some, almost 30 for that. So about 150 people over the 2 days when it was all said and done. The flex start, like any flex start, understandably, I think you add 10 or 20 degrees to the day, and we double or triple your flex start participants. But that's the beauty of being a flex start, is when it's 12 degrees and you wake up, you're like, I don't know that I want to play that bad.
I wouldn't have
today.
I know that.
So understandable. We had about 30 for that, and bunch of different divisions represented and such. Good times. Real quick, I want to thank House of Disc, specifically though, Discmania, who hooked it up pretty big in terms of some really cool discs that were custom stamped for the event. I did post it to Instagram that everybody got 2 premium model discs along with a neck gaiter, along with a Brixton pack of cards. So that everybody got a pack of cards.
Did anybody open their cards while they were there?
A few people did, and
any good breaks?
I heard of a few, now I don't remember. Somebody pulled a pretty good Sullivan Tipton card. I forget exactly which one it was, but I think a lot of people were a little bit hesitant as they're trying to keep their fingers warm enough to then be dealing with opening up cards. But it was really cool to see that happen. So real quick, I'm going to read through a few of the top performers from the weekend. Jonathan Borsick defended his title. This has been otherwise owned by Christopher Meyer in terms of this event, but now Jonathan Borsick trying to take down titles. He's going to be playing now in Florida, so he's on the right track, playing here just till it gets cold enough, and then him and his family are head down and take in some Florida weather. So I may be saying his name again here soon. He takes first place in MPO. Patrick Yu declines the cash as a 989 rated 17-year-old out of Madison area, declines the cash.
Looking at that Am Worlds.
Looking at that, he finished in second by just a stroke, and James Lesniewski took third. So congrats to those top competitors in MPO. Tracy Knippel was our only FPO competitor. She got a little more than her money back. Fred Vroman picks up another title here at the MP40 division. He's won in the past. Chris Jordan finishes second. Steve Held in third. Johnny Rumble, who we've mentioned a number of times here on the show, defeats...
I was going to say, not the first time Steve Held lost this weekend when I crushed him in fantasy football.
Oh, God. He's a loser.
He's a loser.
Through and through. Johnny Rumble is not a loser, though. Has won this in MPO, MP60, and MP40. So Johnny Rumble doing some work. Not all this weekend, but he won it in MP60 now this weekend, defeating Tom Jenkins. Eric Acuff is your MA1 champ. Eric C-Slick is your MA40 champ. Tim, he told me, Tim H. Arakawa takes it in MA50. Jay Oberg takes it in MA60. So congrats to all of them. Thank you guys for coming out. Thanks to anyone that, threw any additional support our way. I was able to feed almost everybody that stuck around some pizza at lunch. That's one of my favorite parts of the event is we have a very quick turnaround. So we get pizza from a local bar and grill down the road. And then I'm able to serve up pizza, a little bit of warmth during what is otherwise a very frigid day out there. Real quick, I'll read through our Sunday winners as well. Ben Halter gets an ace and gets the come from behind win in MA2. Congrats to him. Dylan Fassey, a.k.a. Pastry Dies, sneaks out the victory by a single stroke. Ellen Kasonic takes it down in FA3, and Matthew Curtis wins in MA4. So congrats to all of those players as well. Again, I can't say it enough. Thank you to all that came out. And yes, my buddy Dustin Skorpinski went out in that weather and filmed the lead card in the afternoon. So I'll put that together so you guys have even more footage to dissect and to take in. Did you just Matthew Curtis? I'll repeat it for you. Won MA4.
Carney asked, "Who won MA4?" I don't know if he was joking or he actually.
I don't know, but now you know. It was Matthew Curtis,
or he was looking for the name to be out there. So,
so thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. Carney's looking for the shout out. Well, there you go. It was with a C though. Matthew Curtis with a C. Carney. Yeah, and with that, I ordered a little bit too much pizza, as I do year after year accidentally. I keep trying to make notes and adjustments. I'm all pizzaed out. I don't need to see or even think about pizza.
You never order the right amount of pizza.
No, because the absolute worst thing in the world for me to do is obviously to order too few, and then somebody who genuinely doesn't get it, hasn't had their first, doesn't get any. So there is an element of I'm going to take it in the shorts a little bit. You can order too much. It just sucks then when any of it is left over, even after people have had some seconds and whatnot. That's the one downside, because it just feels like you are throwing away money when nobody eventually takes any of the leftover pizza even after the second round.
Depends what kind of pizza it is.
Pizza I can only eat so much more pizza. All right, my tummy might say otherwise, but yes, there's only so much that can be consumed.
I don't know if I can ever overdose on pizza.
You would. I promise. I would like to say the same, but after this weekend, every year, I'm OD'd on pizza because there's leftover pizza on Saturday and there's leftover pizza on Sunday, and I don't even want to think about pizza as much as I love it. I don't even want to think about it right now.
I don't know.
I'm going to come put it in your face.
Fine. Yum, yum, yum.
Just, it's to be fair,
I had some pizza yesterday.
Yeah, well, anyway. All right. Carney says, like when you get a Costco pizza for lunch and eat it for dinner also. Yeah, that's one way. But when you get it, when you serve it up, when it lingers at lunch and it lingers after the event, and then you do it all again a second day, and you're bad on self-control, yes, you can officially eat too much pizza. I promise you.
Oh, I'm not saying. Here's what I'll say. You can definitely eat too much. I don't know if I would get sick of eating pizza.
Yes, Tim, you should have drove up just for the pizza alone. We have extra. I still have some in the fridge.
Because is pizza the best food? like, well, I'll say this.
It's hard to beat.
Is pizza the most universally liked food?
Here's what I am surprised by. I'm surprised that when I go to Finland, people are like, yeah, have some of our pizza. When you go to Norway, people are like, yeah, have some of the pizza. When I went to Uruguay, pizza. They're famous for meat too, but pizza. Like, it's surprising to go to so many other countries and then people embrace the idea of like, well, have some pizza here. Well, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to argue with you because seems like a pretty safe thing to do.
I bet you each one has their own flair and whatnot on it.
But I'm still shocked how many countries are like, yeah, try our pizza here.
Ed Root says it's hard to beat a good taco.
Oh, no.
I mean, I'll admit I love a good taco. I mean, I'm a big fan of Torchy's tacos, but I just don't think taco has a universal love like pizza.
No,
like
there's too many variables.
You're not going to Sweden and getting a good taco, probably.
Yeah.
Not nearly as much. Well, you might, but not nearly as much as you're getting a good pizza. So
wait a minute, back up. You've had Torchy's tacos?
Yes.
You haven't?
Yes, lots of times.
Where? When?
In Texas, when I've been to Texas, and when we were Austin, we had it together when we were down there. They did breakfast tacos. Those are from Torchy's.
What?
And when I've traveled there for work, Torchy's tacos.
Huh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were so cultured. I don't recall these.
Oh my God. Torchy's tacos are delicious.
These Torchy's interactions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I've called you for my Torchy's tacos because I remember sitting there. I was sitting outside of the Torchy's tacos, and for whatever reason, as we tend to do, I just called you up and we were chatting about something, and I was sitting outside in a gorgeous night in, I believe I was in Houston for that Torchy's.
Wow.
Torchy's is delicious.
Okay. Classier than I recall.
Yeah. Have you had Torchy's tacos?
Yeah, I don't remember ever having it.
You had it. You had their breakfast one when we were down at Austin at that at the 7 acre Schwood. They did breakfast tacos, and we had some. I mean, they weren't advertised as Torchy's, but they were. I know they were definitely Torchy's tacos. I realized that. But yes, that's probably the one time you've had it. So.
Darren says, "Do you leave the pizza from Saturday for breakfast?" Yeah, it was there, and I had a piece, and I was like, "No, stop."
Wait, did you warm it up or cold?
It was cold.
Okay, that's good.
There was limited options there.
I love cold pizza. We will order a pizza, and some of the times when we get pizza, it's cut into squares. It's great because it slides right into a Ziploc bag then.
As did this weekend's. Yep.
Yep. And then you put it in there, and the next day, not for breakfast usually, although I have done that when I was younger. It's more of a lunch thing. You look, you're like, oh, a bag of pizza, which you don't get to say very often. But a bag of pizza. You grab a bunch of pizza, grab 2 or 3, and they're probably at that point kind of congealed together. Mm-hmm. So you can either peel them apart or just eat like 2 or 3 squares at once. And it's like a pizza sandwich almost. This is phenomenal.
Okay.
Just,
I hear what you're saying, trust me, but it was a long weekend of it.
Tim Court says when he delivered pizzas for a short bit and quit, he couldn't eat it for a month. I could almost understand that. Although I'd still love pizza. What's your favorite pizza topping?
Now we're getting personal.
Ray says banana peppers. Carney says garlic, ricotta, sausage. I'm a pretty plain guy, so I'll usually take like a sausage and pepperoni, although there was a place right by UWM called the Trattoria, which had what they called a California pizza. It had, what was obviously dried tomatoes, sun-dried tomatoes. It had, I believe it was ricotta cheese on it. And there was another kind of cheese. It was basically in clumps, like literally like a ball of cheese. I forget what kind of cheese it was, though, that they would just drop onto it. And your other normal sauce and cheese, a layer of cheese. But that was one of the favorites. And part of it maybe is just a little nostalgia because my wife and I would go there when we were dating and we would eat. And that was like one of our date places. So we'd always go to the Oakland Trat, as it was called, the Oakland Trattoria. Then they changed their name to Solo, I think, or something. And they still had the same pizza, but it was a little different. And then they went to a whole different place, and we haven't been there in 15 years. So
burn it down. I'm on the, I don't want to say the opposite end of the spectrum, but I had pizza with my family, visiting my family a few weeks ago. And I still pretty much have one standing rule. and I just don't want onion. You can
I'm with you. I'm
pretty much put almost any topping on a pizza. I just don't want onion. Now until you start getting into the silly stuff and the weird stuff, like F you if you're putting broccoli on a pizza. Like, that's just stupid. You can have that argument whether it's ham or pineapple, and like those are
broccoli. Like, if it's small little bit sprigs of broccoli with it depends on what else is on that pizza.
No, well, yeah, I get it. Then that's when you're getting into the more weird off base stuff, though.
Yeah.
Like, I get it; it goes on certain pizzas.
Yeah,
because
pizza
you have to already be like off on a tangent.
Yeah, broccoli. I don't think with the red sauce pizza would be good, but I could see a different, like, my wife sometimes gets like an Alfredo pizza, and I could see some broccoli on there would be okay. But I'm not saying I prefer that. I'm saying it could be all right.
I'm just saying, like, when you're talking traditional toppings, I'll take all of the traditional toppings except for onion. Everything else,
see,
I can deal with.
I don't dig on anchovies or...
Yeah, but even that, like,
no.
I know everyone says anything but anchovies. Like, I almost feel like that's a given because, again, anchovies are so...
Yeah.
Like, there's got to be like 2% of the population that would even consider putting them on. I feel like they're already so fringe, because that's the number one thing people say is when I say, well, I'll take anything but onion. What about anchovies? If you have to ask, you already know that it's not like that's not going to be a normal one.
I also don't want black olives.
Well, that's where you're wrong.
Because olives are awful. Every type of olive. Green, black.
All right, we don't need to go there.
They're the worst.
No, they're not.
So, yes, they are, but, and I don't like
this
pineapple
weekend, just for your record, on Saturday's order I made, I ordered, I think, 5 sausage, 5 pepperoni, 4 cheese, and then 1 black olive.
How much was left of the black olive?
Well, I'm the only one that gets to eat that one. I pull that one aside because it may or may not be for everyone, but I pull that aside and I make sure I get first dibs on that, and then I share it with whoever wants it.
Okay, well, that's
like a separate one. So, anyway, we can get into all sorts of other funny pizza conversations. I don't know that is there anything else in sports, pop culture? Or what are we in, December?
We're in December, so NFL season is starting to wind
Button
down,
tighten up
a little bit.
How are the Titans doing?
Tennessee Titans are not doing well,
Okay.
I don't believe. Our hometown Packers, they are doing well. I believe we're at 8-3 or something along those lines.
Okay.
We did win on Thanksgiving. We beat the Miami Dolphins. And now this Thursday, we play the dreaded Detroit Lions. We have a very good team, and it'll be very difficult to beat them. Yes, Jeff, Big Smashy, he's on our Discord as well quite a bit. He always posts when the Lions win. So hopefully the Packers can somehow stop them dirty Lions from winning. But, yeah.
We haven't had to be too concerned, just
it's
for
been a
historical
few decades.
perspective. Yeah, normally we don't fret or concern ourselves with the Lions. I'm not a big history buff, but I don't think it was that long ago where they had a winless season.
Mm-hmm.
So usually clearly the tide has changed, and
they're a good team now.
Things are looking better for them. But I just recall it wasn't that many years ago we were talking about a record-breaking winless season. So obviously legitimate contenders and competitors this year. Quick side note, I did see it in an email, and the timing worked out perfectly. Quick plug, unpaid plug here, unsponsored plug.
Send them a bill.
But the Paul Macbeth Foundation obviously will take donations and contributions, and you can become a member of their Builders Club and all that other good stuff at any time. However, as of right now, I saw in an email today that when you make a contribution to the Paul Macbeth Foundation, it looks like UDisc is doubling that contribution up to $12,000 for the year, or up to a total of $12,000, which is incredible. So today, I happen to be doing a couple of the final notes for running the tournament. And since there was no ace hit on Saturday, just as I had advertised it, if no aces were hit, that we would be making a contribution to the Paul Macbeth Foundation. So I was able to make that contribution, and then it felt even better knowing that UDisc would come along and at some point will double that contribution. So
taking money right out of UDisc's pocket, are you?
Yeah, that's how it works. If you're going to offer it,
that's great.
So big thank you, of course, to UDisc for doing such, and then also I've seen firsthand all the incredible things that the Paul Macbeth Foundation continues to work on. So I'm happy to do that. I think just keep in mind for tournament directors, you can partner with that foundation in a very structured and detailed oriented way, and then you can also just do random things like I've done for this particular event, which was the ace pool wasn't hit. I announced it ahead of time that's where it would go if it didn't get hit. There's a lot of different ways I feel like you can incorporate your event. And I love the Macbeth Foundation, and I also continue to rotate it to other causes, whether it's the Ricky Wysocki's foundation or Uplay or over to Edge or whatever. You could be dedicated to one given cause, or you can find others. I've also found ways to, donate to Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. I just think those are easy things that tournaments can do. We're certainly no Ledgestone here and writing $50,000 or $100,000 checks, but lots of little ways that I feel like, whether it's a raffle or an unhit ace pool or a CTP that 50% goes to an organization and 50% goes to a player, things of that nature. There's a lot of ways that you can be creative with it. So I just wanted to say thank you to UDisc for doubling up on that. Ray asks if my daughters, did your daughter enjoy Wicked?
I think he was
talking to you.
Talking to me.
Did your daughter enjoy Wicked?
We did not go to see Wicked.
Okay.
So he was mistaken. I know we had talked about last week whether your daughters would be interested.
They have not gone yet. Mine
no,
have not.
No, instead, my daughter turned 13 yesterday. So on Sunday, we surprised her with a trip to the orchestra where we went to go see A Muppet Christmas Carol, which is a phenomenal Muppet movie. But what they did is, and I'm not exactly sure how they did it. It's probably very simple, but they more or less took all the backing music out of it. And they had the Milwaukee Symphony Orchestra play all of the backing music, which was phenomenal. I mean, they didn't clearly miss a beat. It was really great. And I just kept thinking, I'm like, how did they pull just the background music out? Do they have a special cut of the film? Do they just find a way to kill the other channels? Is it broken up in 5.1 surround sound where the voices are all in the center channel and everything else is background? But it was great, honestly. The first of all, obviously the movie is a lot of fun, but my daughter, who is a huge Muppets fan, we had a lot of fun. And then yesterday was her birthday party. They had the day off of school, surprisingly. So her and literally 15 friends went to go see Moana 2, which I guess was decent. Well, not great, but just decent. Oh, yeah. And then they ordered pizza, which we had pizza then yesterday, Terry.
I've got some I'll bring over tomorrow. I still have some in my fridge.
I'm good, thanks.
Big hugs and love to a big supporter and friend of the show, Miles Parkhill. I think we mentioned on the show almost 2 weeks ago. His father had passed away. I know tonight were the services, and so nothing but love and hugs to Miles and his family and everyone else. I know also in the next couple of weeks, we're going to have Miles on the show. He wants to come back, and we want to help promote it, that all the cool things he's doing with tournament directors, branding-wise, and things that he can do over there with Miles T-shirts and Paragon Disc Golf. Miles, of course, has been one of the main marketing backbones to fulfilling all the things Sean Jack talked to us about in terms of ad boards and ad walls,
vehicles, wraps,
trusses, wraps. You guys have seen things like the Zuka truss, all of those things on the Pro Tour, some of the merchandising and apparel, some of those things. He does pretty much everything that can have any kind of advertising and or marketing on it. And he also then works directly with tons of tournaments, hundreds of tournaments. And so we're going to have him on in the next few weeks where he can talk about that. But tonight, I know the services were taking place for his father. So hugs to, like I said, him and the entire family over there. We love you, Miles. So A couple other notes that you guys, I'll be talking about it for at least another month. Well, maybe not if we sell out. If you're interested in the Samui Swine event, registration is open and available. So please make sure you're checking that out. We've got 3 days of, we'll say, the more amateur divisions, and then 3 days of the advanced and pro divisions. You might qualify for playing in even both. Those are all available on Disc Golf Scene. And then the following week, Chiang Mai Open taking place. I'm excited to be part of that as well. All of that is out there and available on Disc Golf Scene. If you have any questions about some of the details of traveling to Thailand and or things that I could, if I don't know the answer, which is quite possible, I for sure know the people that do have the answers for you, but I know I can at least give you some basics and overall information if you're looking to be at one or both. If you're going to go to one, just go to both, by the way. Like, that's maybe where I would start, is if you're going to make the trip there, just go to both weekends at least. You even expand it beyond that if you want, but do both of those. Both are incredible experiences. All right, let's do some drawing. We got stuff to give away. One of the things that's going to be given away, maybe for a few weeks,
Pizza. Cold pizza from
cold
Terry.
pizza, along with a Discmania Neospore.
Neospore.
Not Neosporin. Neospore. Very fun disc. Some of you have seen the marketing and advertising for it over the last few months. If you aren't familiar with it, think Polecat, think Glitch, Watt, in that kind of neighborhood.
0-1 speed kind of thing.
Yeah, relatively slow, but so fun to throw and even more fun to warm up with and play catch with. I was introduced to it, and again, I'm not paid for this ad, but I was introduced to it while in Uruguay, and we ended up playing with it for a very long time. I was going to say hours. We threw one around and played with it forever, and it was at that point I said, I don't know how many people are buying this. Maybe there's a ton, but if you're not buying it, you need to be given one. And that was part of the player pack this weekend, just one component of it. And I ordered extras with the sole purpose of knowing I'd have a few to give away here on our show for a few weeks. So, and they're available for purchase, but you need one. You can play with one.
Patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV. That's your place to support us and get your name put into this list. Big shout out to, oh crap, I closed it. We have a new Patreon. We had a new Patreon supporter this week, and I'll dig it up at some point. I think it was like Heath or something. It might have been Heath. Yeah, Heath Strode. Thank you, Heath Strode, for being a Patreon supporter.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. Anyway, are we ready, Terry, to give something away?
Yeah, let's give I've got a Spore.
Neospore. You have a Neospore in your car.
Yes, I actually have. I think I brought 6 of them along. 3 of them of 3 different colors.
Neospore in your car.
Yes.
All right. What number do you want to generate tonight?
I mean, Ace Run Pro has 2 outstanding humans, and they were here on our regular show. So when they find them, they should point them our way so we can. No, Ace Run Pro was on the show. Of course, I'm talking about Felix and Conrad. They're quite a combo. So let's pick the second number.
Second number. All right. The first number for Felix is 78, but he doesn't win. So for Conrad, the second number is 83.
Just 5 more.
83. So let me go to number 83.
Johnny goes to the spreadsheet.
83 is Patrick Showalter. Congratulations, Patrick Showalter. Ray, you were 86. I told you that earlier in the list. Ray wanted to make sure that we had him in the list, and I said I pull the list between the shows. So literally right after we finish the show, I will pull the list for the most up-to-date list in case anyone does decide they want to become a Patreon supporter during our regular show. He was number 86. But this is Patrick Showalter. Congratulations.
Patrick.
You will be getting this disc sent to you over in Virginia.
Yes, and Patrick, it's been a minute since you've picked up any packages of my disc in a box. So if you need 100 discs
sent with
my
your
disc in a box,
Neospore,
Yeah. You could save SmashBox about about $5.50 because I'd put the disc in with the boxes, but maybe you don't need any boxes. I don't know.
I hope he does.
Yeah, Patrick. So close, Ray. You say it'll never happen. I mean, don't say never.
It'll happen, Ray.
Someday. When we are 1,300 episodes, no, 13,000 episodes in, anything could happen.
Anything could happen.
All right, do we have anything else we need to cover?
I don't believe we do, Terry. I
All
think
right.
we're good for the night.
I think we are. We're going to chow it up this weekend, which for some reason never gets old saying. Let's chow. Chow. Chow mama. I don't know. Either way, this weekend, looking forward to it. Hopefully you guys get all locked in on the coverage and have something that you can enjoy. Or maybe it's cold where you are. Maybe you're out playing. I don't know. But either way, we'll have it for you. I'm going to attempt to do just that, get you next day coverage as far as I know of. We'll see if the skins match gets released right away or not. It probably will, but that should be a lot of fun as well. So multiple days of coverage, and our friends at Ace Run Pro will be out there capturing FPO action as well. So looking forward to all of it. For Johnny V, I'm the Disc Golf Guy. That's SmashBoxxTV Podcast 535's After Show. Thank you guys for joining us. Stay safe and warm and get that holiday shopping done early. And we'll see you next week. You step inside the Smashbox.